Let's figure this out. Let's see. Hopefully this one's working right now. Awesome. Great to have you, Jasmine. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Great to have everyone. Appreciate you guys dancing around here with me a little bit as we had a little bit of tech difficulties. I don't know what just happened, but now it looks like I'm back. Okay. Everyone can see me. Everyone can hear me. Everyone can feel me like Tommy from The Who. All right. Awesome. Cool. I have no clue what happened. That happens sometimes, I guess. I'm sure it has something to do with me or China. Maybe China. I don't know. But we got a great show tonight. Okay, fantastic show. Like I was saying in the beginning of the other one that you probably didn't hear, so I was the only one that heard it. I'll say it all again. We got an awesome show, okay? And here's Ben, here's me in the thumbnail saying World War III. World War III begins, right? Is this the beginning of World War III? Ben, how can you say that? Straits of Hormuz are open. You know, Straits of Hormuz are open. Ben, what are you talking about? Trump saying we got everything we wanted. Everyone should be happy. But is it really? Is it really happening? Well, I'm going to tell you quietly behind the scenes, no, it's not what you think. Okay? This is not what you think. And I'm going to explain to you everything going on in the world. So we check the comms. We're green. We're good. Everything's rolling. I am Ben Pappas, and this is tonight the Ferocious Optimist channel and the Ben Pappas show. And we are going to be in the global war room right now. Okay, you saw the thumbnail, you saw the title. You're here because you feel it in your gut that the world isn't just changing, it's fracturing quite a bit. So tonight we're going to go deep dive into this pincer and what's happening. On one side, what we didn't know was happening is Vladimir Putin. Putin is pushing troops into NATO territory. Okay, believe it or not, he is threatening NATO as we speak right now. And this has kind of been happening behind the scenes, right? And I'm going to show you why, okay? He's moving heavy fire brigades, heavy artillery towards Leningrad, Estonia border. Why? Because the big red bear is getting punched in the mouth in Ukraine. That's why, okay? And he's looking for a softer target to save face. Not to mention a lot of other things going on too, with the global oil shocks, all those things happening, okay? And on the other side, we have the betrayal of the century. Not really a betrayal. We should have seen it coming. But China went and gave targeting intelligence to the Iranians, all right, which is targeting directly U.S. American service members out and putting them in the crosshairs out in the Middle East. Okay, we're going to explore that as well, too. And we're going to explore as well as how a lot of this in Iran is not just about oil in Iran. It's about the limits of Chinese power. Okay, there is a great game going on, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to talk about it. But we're going to talk about really fast, too, the Hormuz Mirage, how we're saying that the streets are open, that the Straits of Hormuz are open, or as President Trump said, the Strait of Iran. I'm sure they love that. The Straits of Hormuz are open, okay? But are they really? What does that actually mean, okay? They say they're negotiations. Are there really? Okay, I'm going to tell you that I think it's all a big fat lie. First of all, the Iranians say it's not happening, okay? Now, is it a lie or is it strategy? Is President Trump trying to throw them into chaos? I'm sure it's a bit of everything. Or is he trying to just trying to use words to control the economy, to stabilize things, to get the economy to die down and to be, not so crazy? You look, global oil prices drop. Price of Brent crude oil drops just on these announcements. The stock market rallies. All kinds of markets are going up, okay? He knows what he's doing with the war of words as well, too. Meanwhile, the Iranians are like, no, wait a second. We didn't say that. We didn't say we're going to give you all the enriched uranium. We didn't say we're going to find all the dust. We didn't say we're going to stop, okay? And I'm going to show you why, in the eyes of many experts, Iran is not done because they can take a hell of a pounding. All right, we're going to talk about still the possibility of a ground war. I'm not backing down off of that, and other people tend to agree with me. But we're going to show how there's a lot at play here and how this merging of so many different strategic lines could be the powder keg that lights off really World War III. Some strategists, many strategists, and historians say that we are in the beginning stages, the architecture of World War III right now. We've talked about that before, okay? And I'm going to show you how they might just be right, that this is actually the opening stages, so that in the future, a historian may actually say they're going to show you how this was actually in World War III. We just didn't know it yet, okay? Because there weren't full declarations of war across the board. So, well, I mean, we can look at the bright side of things. On the bright side, Iran called us vile dogs. I mean, at least they're not saying the great Satan, the usual great Satan. That's a little bit, I think it's a little bit formal for a Friday. So you got that. And, you know, can we stop pretending that China is our strategic partner? I mean, can we? They're like the creepy neighbor that borrows from you, borrows your lawnmower, and then uses it to tunnel into your basement to kill you while you're sleeping, okay? All they ever say is they want trade and peace, and meanwhile, we come to find out, passing off targeting intelligence, satellite intelligence to the Iranians, okay? The Chinese are not our friends, all right? And I'm going to tell you right now, stay tuned, because I'm going to show you how there was a strategic global superpower showdown in the Straits recently happened, and I'm going to talk about that, okay? Stick around for that. And, of course, we are going to have our leadership lessons of South Park as a fan favorite. That is out there towards the end. They're going to be there, so stick around for that. And, you know, what about this? If the Straits are open, how come they're using that same terminology? You need to still go along the coordinated route. We're going to take a look at what the hell does that mean, the coordinated route. I'm going to tell you the coordinated route means that they are still having people paying a $2 million convenience fee to this regime, right, to the Iranians. And it's unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable, because nothing is really open. Nothing has really changed, okay? The Iranians haven't surrendered. Apparently there are going to be some negotiations. Who knows? Who really knows? But we're going to deep dive into this, because what we know for a fact is that Russia has lost nearly 1 million casualties in Ukraine. And right now, they're timid, honestly. They're bleeding. Putin knows he's under so much pressure. Putin is a cornered predator, and that makes him the most dangerous man on earth. China has stepped out behind the curtain. The kill chain is established, okay? Tonight, we break down the strategic design of World War III. We're going to talk about that. And this is going to be a bit of a global war room, like I said, okay? So let's get ready to rock and roll. Let's lock and load. I'm going to give some shout-outs really quick, and then we're going to get right into this, starting off with Russia. And then we'll get into Iran, Strait of Hormuz, and China after that. Let's go. Let's see who we got out there right now. Great to have you guys. I appreciate you coming back in after the tech difficulties. But we have got Jasmine, of course. Great to have you. Let Freedom Ring. What's going on? Good to have you. Pumpkin, what's going on? Matt Byrne, great to have you here. Lisa Jones, of course, great having you. Nick, what's going on, man? What's up, party people? Mark, I owe you some push-ups. I saw your last one over there. DeGriff, what's going on? Good to have you. Must have been China. Paul, good to have you here. And Real Trump said, you guys, you're back in here. Good to have you. Let's see. Let Freedom Ming or Ring? Ring. Let's see. Who else is here? Okay. See you later, Real Trump said. See you later. Let's see here. Saucy, good to have you. All right, let's rock and roll. Let's do this. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Let's talk about right now. Okay. Let's get into it right now about Putin and Russia, because I think, guys, this is the biggest story that no one is talking about. Honestly, I'm not going to lie to you. I was blindsided by this, okay? Give me a 1 in the chat. Give me a 1 in the chat if you were surprised hearing about this Russian aggression, new threats against NATO, new aggression, okay? Also, a whole new movement of troops out to the border of Estonia, near the border of Finland. Okay, these are NATO members that Russia is now threatening. And guess what? What's going on with NATO right now? The U.S. is not so friendly with NATO right now. President Trump, not a big fan of NATO. He's talking about leaving NATO. A lot of friction in NATO. So a lot of scenarios can play out. Some of the scenarios that come to my mind are, so what if Russia takes Estonia? What if that happens, right? What then? What are we going to do? NATO will Article 5, but without the U.S., they're going to be in a hell of a fight. And he's crazy enough to use whatever it takes to win. Okay, so we're going to take a look at this, and we're going to see what happens. Let me jump right in here really fast with our first story. Okay, getting right into Russia. We got a video for you guys here to take a look at. Got quite a few videos because this is our main story right now. And then we're definitely going to get in the Strait of Hormuz, and we're going to talk about all that. But I think this is very important because, yes, of course, Iran is really important. But the thing that could start World War III and actually launch into a full World War III, that's an existential threat, a real existential threat, not this Iran existential threat, right? The real existential threat is Russia. We all know that. Okay, let's take a look at this. Let's listen to what they have to say here, and then we'll get into it.
Welcome back to another short war video, and today we have more major developments in Iran, Russia, and Ukraine, so let's jump right into it. This morning, reports claim that Russian forces have begun building up on NATO's border as Ukraine warns that a major Russian escalation is imminent in Belarus, and it's coming at a really bad time, as we just learned today that U.S. weapon shipments to the Baltic states are being put on pause. Meanwhile, Romania, a NATO member, reports that a Russian drone breached its airspace just a few hours ago, and Romanian authorities have launched a search to locate the crash site. Meanwhile, in Iran...
So guys, if we take a look at this map, okay, let's take a look at this really quickly. Here's Ukraine. All right, look at my cursor. There's Ukraine. If we look to the north, there's Belarus, okay, totally allied with Russia. There's Lithuania, there's Latvia, and Estonia even further north. Here's Romania. So we're talking Russian drones pushed all the way into Romania, okay? This is all NATO, all through here. NATO, not Belarus, not Ukraine, okay? And where they're doing the troop massing right now, they're moving troops, okay, I'm going to show this to you guys, is here. They're massing troops up here near Estonia, okay? What we were just talking about is down here in Romania. This is a map of the conflict in Ukraine, okay? Now, I want to show you guys really fast. I want to compare and contrast this map. Look at the density of the combat action going on. Look at the density of the attacks. I'll zoom in a little bit. Look at how thick this is. Just 3 hours ago was the last attacks, the last explosions we heard. This is such a hot zone, a hot war, okay? Russia has lost 1 million soldiers. Putin is on the ropes over here, okay? Again, here's Romania down here. There's Bucharest. This is Ukraine, okay? This is the Donetsk area, Donetsk, I can't even say it. And then up here is the area in question I was just talking to you about. This is Estonia. Very isolated. You think about this. On the water, here's Tallinn. How easy. Go across, rumble, take Estonia. The only place they can attack through, they can't go into Russia and attack. They have to come in through Latvia. There's a water barrier to the north that Finland's not going to attack across the water. Finland's worried about its own border. This is an easy grab for Russia to really test the NATO alliance. Okay? So what then? What then? These are some real evil plans here. Very strategically aggressive, predatory plans that Putin has. Meanwhile, I want to compare and contrast you guys, okay? Let's look at what this conflict tracker looks like in Iran. I click over here. Look at how many fewer red dots of missile strikes and fighting. Okay? There's no comparison. This is over here in Lebanon, Israel and Lebanon. So many fewer marks of strikes, right? Again, compare and contrast. Let's go here, Ukraine. Look at the thickness. Look at it's so many, it's nuts. I'll zoom in a little more. We have to really zoom in order to start counting. We still can't. Drone strikes, artillery, direct fire firefight, infantry firefights. Okay? And if you guys didn't know it, recently the Ukraine won an entire battle, captured territory, seized territory, captured soldiers with a robot army. Okay, guys, I talked to you guys about this before, but the battlefield is changing. Things are changing drastically. All right? And so that's the area in question. And I want to take a look as well as how close actually is the rest of Europe, not just Eastern Europe, right? Still part of NATO. This is all the NATO arc right here. Okay, NATO's here, border. But once they get Estonia, they can roll up into Latvia all the way down, and then they're getting into Poland. Okay? He being Vladimir Putin, has talked about taking back the greater Soviet empire at some point. Okay? He has talked about that. Joe Saunders, Brian Plummer, great to have you guys here. Awesome to have you guys here. And so, Juan Wick, what's up, brother? Good to have you, man. It is absolutely nuts. And I'm going to get in some questions in a minute here, guys, so throw your questions in the chat. But it is absolutely crazy because I know we are here. We're all the way down here in the Iran map, and we're worried about it, and we're fighting Strait of Hormuz and all this stuff. And yes, very important, right? Global strategic choke point, oil choke point, the whole thing, okay? And meanwhile, the number one super predator, Russia, is up there making moves, okay? They're making moves up here, testing the NATO alliance. And let's get into this next little bit because, as we've said, they are making moves, and Ukraine is hammering away on them. And why would Putin start making these moves? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because of this. Watch this.
President Trump on Truth Social speaking on the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. He says this: now that the Hormuz Strait situation is over, I received a call from NATO asking if we would need some help. I told them to stay away unless they just want to load up their ships with oil. They were useless when needed, a paper tiger, President Donald J. Trump. So that just coming in here from the president as we're sharing this news. Now, we also have heard from him.
Okay, so this wasn't that long ago when he posted this, all right, about NATO. Now, with all the trouble with NATO and all the issues, all those things like that, Putin sees this and he says, okay, well, it seems like maybe definitely the U.S. is not committed to this whole NATO thing, right? And they're busy with China, they're busy with Iran, they're busy with Venezuela. In fact, if you caught it, all right, the U.S. has halted shipments of weapons already purchased. The weapons have already been purchased, and we've halted the shipments to the Eastern European NATO allies. Okay, we've halted the shipments of already purchased weapons. Why? Because these weapons are in demand for the Iran war. Okay, so there's already a lot going on. Putin sees this. He's licking his chops right now. He's like, okay, and why? Again, why is he so motivated? I'm going to tell you why. Because he's scared for his damn life, okay? Let's watch this for a few more seconds here. I think he's got some more good stuff to say.
Iranian officials made a bombshell claim today that they allegedly reopened the Strait of Hormuz.
Okay.
However,
he's already covered it. Let's get to this part. All right, so why? Why is Putin so motivated now to maybe open a new front? Well, I'll show you why right here, okay? This is why he's so motivated to open a new front, because Ukrainian forces are kicking the crap out of Russia more than they ever have, and here's how they're doing it.
Ukraine isn't just fighting Russia, they're dismantling the very idea of the traditional Russian military, a meat grinder approach to warfare that maybe has reached the point of no return. While the front line turns into a high-tech kill zone, the world is asking, has this Russian superpower finally begin to break? Today, we're going to break down why Russia may finally be running out of time. I'm Simon Diggins, and this is Superpowers Exposed. Ukraine hasn't just been improving its weapons, it's developed a new system for fighting the war, using long-range drone missile hybrids, AI-driven mission control, and autonomous swarming tactics for its drones that are dismantling the Russian military in real time. We're going to begin by looking at Ukraine's 2026 defense strategy under the defense minister.
Okay, so again, Russia has lost 1 million soldiers in this war, over 1 million soldiers. Putin is desperate. I've told you guys before that, these dictators ride the tiger, and, the thing is they can't get off the tiger once they're riding it. If Putin loses, he's dead. If he loses, the war is over. I mean, his war is over. He will be overthrown, okay? He has to have victory. And in fact, there's a recent report about the Russian high command pulling back the drones, pulling back the first-person view drones from Russian forces. That's the only time they're having a great effect on the Ukrainians is when they use these FPV drones, but they're pulling it back from them and actually only allowing their autonomous forces to use these. And so there's I wouldn't say a revolt, but definitely a lot of blowback coming from the frontline troops against Russian high command because they're not letting them have the weapon systems they need to fight and to win. And you're going to see here in some of the other videos that actually Ukraine is revolutionizing warfare right now as we speak. Let's watch a little bit more about this in this video.
Mikhailo Fedorov. Ukraine's 2026 strategy under the defense minister offers a grounded, real-world version of a technological superpower. This is about a nation turning data, algorithms, and mass-produced robotics into a force that could dismantle a traditional military giant. In 2025, Ukraine carried out 819,737 confirmed strikes and caused
819,000 confirmed strikes.
90% of all Russian combat losses using drones. That is more than all the other systems combined. And they've also linked.
And you see how they're dropping bombs, okay? The drones coming and dropping grenades and explosives that are point detonation explosives. So they've advanced so far. It's like the Amazon quadcopters, but they're using them to drop bombs, okay? So it's absolutely revolutionary. And I'm going to show you some videos later that are actually of first-person combat with these drones. Some of it's a little bit pretty savage stuff, but you're definitely, I think, stick around. I'm going to show that to you in a little while as well, too. And don't forget to like, subscribe, share, okay? Thank you very much for those of you that do. And there's so many people that watch that do not subscribe, and it definitely helps out the channel, so I'd appreciate that. So go ahead and hit that like button for me, and don't forget to share. If you know someone that would get something out of this, go ahead and share it with them right now. I'm going to jump in the chat really quick and see what we got going on in the chat. Let's see here. All right. Okay, I got Brian Plummer. What's going on, Brian? Good to have you. Joe Saunders, what's up, man? Okay. Yeah, Poland has been gearing up for a while, guys. Okay, let me see. Brian, I think you had a question in there. Mitt Romney said throughout the GWOT we were fighting the wrong enemy, that Russia was around me. I mean, he's right about that. He's right about that, definitely. But, you know, they weren't the ones that attacked us. So, you know, that's how that went. But he's right. Russia is the most dangerous, for sure. Number one. Let me see. Yep. Jasmine's right about that there. Defensive NATO. Okay. Yeah, Article 5. So, guys, Article 5 in NATO is an attack on one is an attack on all. So if a NATO member gets attacked, Article 5 states that, you know, all members will fight and defend an Article 5 member. Any member of NATO gets attacked, all the others will respond as though they were attacked. Okay, so that's how that works. During Afghanistan, we had so many NATO members, all the NATO members basically contributed into Afghanistan because the U.S. was attacked. Okay, and they named the Taliban and Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan as the culprits, and so Article 5 was enacted, and they went in and supported us on that. And but that's what that is, in case you're wondering. Let me see. Okay, guys, let's go. All right, here we go. Let's take a look. And yes, losing 1 million troops makes a huge difference for Putin. We'll watch a little bit more of this, but I've got a lot of good info to pass on about how and why Putin is doing what he's doing, okay? And so, for example, I want to show you guys that's what's happening in Ukraine, right? They're losing a lot. Let's watch a little bit more of this because I really want it to sink in that Russia has been ground down to a halt. It's been over 4 years of fighting, and they didn't do what they thought they were going to do. And he's throwing millions of people, literally losing millions, throwing millions of people against this meat grinder in Ukraine without great result right now. So he's got to get a win somehow, some way, and he's seeing his opening, I believe, with threatening NATO, that maybe he could break something loose. by threatening NATO, either A, he's really going to invade, B, okay, he's not going to invade. He's actually just doing it to scare NATO into stopping drone support, stopping the intelligence support, stopping logistical support, all those things for Ukraine, okay? So it's one of those two things, but I want to get your take on it. You guys put a 1 in the chat if you think Putin is actually going to invade another country, and put a 0 if you think he's just doing it to stop support for Ukraine. Give me a 1 if you think that Putin will attack another country like Estonia. He's going to invade Estonia. And give me a 0 if you think he's just doing it to scare the NATO members into stopping their support for Ukraine, especially while the U.S. is out of the picture right now. Yeah, I mean, Jasmine, you might be right, honestly. Okay, Brian says too. Juan thinks it's breaking up support. Got it. Freaking laser beams. Yep. I'm going to put this in the chat right now. Let me see. Let's get this in the chat. Will Russia invade another country? Really simple. This is the question we're asking right now because Putin is so nuts, okay? All right, watch a little bit more of this. Let's keep going.
That to a system whereby production is also distributed. Some, like for example, the first-person view ones, are produced in small basements to the point that the hashtag made by housewives is actually trending nationally and indeed worldwide. Ukraine's top.
So Ukraine makes these, look at this dude. Ukraine makes these FPV drones in basements, okay? Made by housewives is what they say. So very interesting. They have a really cottage industry of creating drones for national survival.
Drone commander Robert Magyabrovty said, the focus is shifted from destroying.
And also the lead guitarist for Black Sabbath. The drone commander and part-time lead guitarist for Black Sabbath. Whatever his name is here. Let's get a look at him again.
Made by housewives is actually trending nationally and indeed worldwide. Ukraine's top drone commander, Robert Magyabrovty, said, the focus is shifted from destroying tanks to bleeding the Russian army itself.
Wow.
For the first time, drones are killing Russian troops faster than the Kremlin can recruit them.
Wow, they are killing Russian troops faster than the Kremlin can recruit them, okay? So if you're Vladimir Putin, you're sitting back and you're wondering, you know, what can I do to advance my interests? Remember, strategy is formed around interests. What are your national interests, right? His interests are obviously for himself, stay in power. But to stay in power, he thinks he needs to expand and gain more prestige and gain more territory. He's thinking about his legacy, his overall, legacy of being a leader. And he's getting the crap kicked out of him right now in Ukraine, okay? So not so much that Russia will fall, but that the cost may be higher than he's willing to pay in order to meet his objectives in Russia. So what is he thinking? Well, I got them hemmed up there. If I just invade Estonia, I might be able to take Estonia like this. And then, who cares? I take Estonia, and does he risk Article 5? Yes. But I think right about now, he's guessing, all right? And if I'm a betting man, if I'm Putin, I'm a betting man, I'm probably thinking the same thing, that will Article 5 be enacted? And if it is, who will answer the call? Will the U.S. step in and fight for Estonia, especially with Trump at the helm, okay? You guys, give me a 1 in the chat if you think Putin is betting that the U.S. will not get involved. I see a lot of 1s and 0s, a good mix there. But give me a 1 in the chat if you think that Putin is betting the U.S. will not get involved under Trump if he invades Estonia. Okay? I want to see what you guys think of that. Let's see here. So far in our poll, 17 votes, 3 minutes. Will Russia invade another country? Yes. 65% say yes. Interesting. Guys, if you're watching, please jump in the poll. Answer the poll. I'd love to get your take on it, see what you think. What's going on, Doc? Good to have you. Doc K. All right. You got a lot of 1s. DeGriff, propaganda, pumpkin. Yeah, I think so too. I think that's what he's betting right now. This is dangerous. This is where rhetoric matters. Remember what I just showed you? when I just showed you over here, we saw this. Look at this from President Trump right after the straits were open today. Now that the Hormuz Strait situation is over, I received a call from NATO asking if we would need some help. I told them to stay away unless they just want to load up their ships with oil. They were useless when needed. A paper tiger, President DJT. Okay? So if I'm Putin, and this was just put out today, a few hours ago, Putin's like, okay, watch this. So Putin, let's take a look here. Russia issues latest warning to 4 NATO states in the Baltic amid fears of war. He says accusations that they are allowing Ukraine drone access with fears it could be a pretext for war in the Baltic. So Putin is accusing the Baltic states of allowing Ukrainian drone access, okay? And he's saying this is a pretext for war. If you do this and you're letting the Ukrainian drones fly around, let's take a look at our map again, okay? You're letting the Ukrainian drones fly around, through Poland, and then through Latvia and Estonia to get to us from over here, right? So let's take a look. What could they do? They could launch from Ukraine, right? Long-range drone, and they can go around Belarus, right? Then go through here, or they could station Ukrainian drones here. I don't know if that's happening. Secretly, maybe it is. And launching attacks on Moscow. Now, why would they do that, right? To avoid a lot of the air defenses through here and getting shot down. Okay, but this is what Putin is claiming, that the Baltic states are allowing Ukrainian drones to have access to their airspace and therefore going and attacking Russia through there, okay? So this is what he's accusing them of. And so he's saying basically it's a pretext for war. He will go to war over these things. He's going to go to war, okay? Let's jump in here and watch a little bit more of this, and we're going to move on.
At peak intensity, Ukraine is erasing nearly 400 Russian soldiers a day. That's an entire assault battalion wiped off the map every 24 hours. These are not losses, and the scale of attrition...
Oh, hold on 1 second. Rewind what he just said. An entire assault battalion wiped off the map every single day. Listen to this.
...is erasing nearly 400 Russian soldiers a day. That's
400 Russian soldiers a day. 400 Russian soldiers a day, okay, according to this source. That is intense. That is incredible, honestly. That is very surprising and incredible. So I'm shocked at that, honestly. I know it's a lot, but to hear it, it's a shock.
Entire assault battalion wiped off the map every 24 hours. These are not losses, and the scale of attrition cannot be sustained, even by Russia, with its superior manpower and resources. Spring 2026 was supposed to be Putin's moment, but what we're now seeing is that Russia is beginning to lose its grip on the war. For the first time since 2023, the Ukrainians are now recapturing more land than the Russians.
Okay, Ukrainians are recapturing more land. There is a lot there. There is a lot there to talk about. And like I said, Putin knows. Putin knows that he has to win. If he doesn't win, there's going to be hell to pay. Okay? There's going to be absolute hell to pay for him. And he could lose power. He could completely lose power. Okay? Let's take a look at any questions in the chat down here. Yeah, propaganda. I think Trump is compromised, but that's just a personal opinion. I don't know. Putin is such a 50-50 wild card. Yeah, Joe, I think you're right. Hey, thank you so much, Jasmine. I appreciate that. It means a lot. I appreciate you signing back up. Thank you. Big round of applause for Jasmine. That is awesome. Big round of applause for Jasmine. Let's see if I can get this to play. Here we go. Woo! Thanks, Jasmine. I appreciate you. All right, a big round of applause. Thank you, Jasmine. I appreciate it. Yeah. So it is a wild card, though, because, again, while we're all distracted and we are all watching, we're watching all this stuff that is going on with Iran, right? We're not paying attention to the bigger picture. I mean, I hate to say it. Yeah, we're paying attention to China too, but I think Putin's probably pissed, like, you guys better pay attention up here. And if you don't, it's kind of like, when you have your dog at home and you go out and the dog feels like it's being left alone. It's like, all right, I'm going to get in some trouble then. You want to leave the garbage can exposed? You want to leave the bathroom doors open? Watch this. Toilet paper everywhere, knocking over garbage can, eating things, causing a problem. Okay. Putin's like, watch this. You don't want to pay attention up here? Watch this. Okay. I'll grab what I can. I'll do what I can. He went and invaded Crimea, stole Crimea. Okay. Again, let's look at our map really quickly. Let's take a look at this. He annexed Crimea and said, this is mine. He sensed weakness, all right, during the Obama administration. And I'm not blaming them exactly. I think he would have done it. He may have done it anyway. I don't know. I mean, for all this talk about the war would end, there's too much respect for me, Putin will step back. Nothing has ended. No change. Nothing has stopped or changed in Ukraine. Okay, there was a big bluster and talk during the campaign. Big bluster and talk. It's going to stop. We had big talks. Putin's like, yeah, whatever. I'm not stopping this. I'm not stopping this at all. We're going to keep going. So right here is Crimea, everybody. See the blue little symbol? Crimea is here. Russia came down and just annexed Crimea, and they just took it. Okay, there's Sevastopol, the naval base. They wanted that. They just took it, I think, without a shot fired. And the Crimeans like, okay. They rolled into town right across here and took it. And there's nothing anybody did except give him mean talk. You're very bad. You better leave there. He's like, hey, that's cool. That's cool. Okay, great. Anything else? Anyone going to do anything about it? No? Okay, thanks. So why would we be so stupid to think, and I'm telling you, a lot of people are stupid right now. They're thinking, he won't go into Estonia. He won't go into Estonia. Why would he do that? That's crazy. It's NATO. He doesn't give a crap. He doesn't give a crap. Because guess what? He's thinking, as we said, and you guys said too, the only people that can stop me is the U.S. No one else can stop me. I don't even think they'll try. They might do some airstrikes. They might do some stuff to show that they did something to make themselves feel good about it. Like maybe the UK and France and maybe a few others. But like for Poland, this is existential. For Poland, it's existential. It's right there. So I think Poland will want to go to war and want to fight. Poland will be pulling them all in. And so the only, again, Germany isn't what it once was, not yet. What's scary is that if it becomes the old Germany, God help us all, honestly. So, like I put the video last time of Germany being Tai Lung. Okay, but we look at this here more broadly. This is how big this Ukraine war is. Here's Latvia, Estonia, Poland. Okay, this is Germany right there. Okay, let's see what this is. Okay, that's just President Zelensky's been in Germany and in Brussels. Okay, so let's watch a little bit more, but we need to deeply understand what is going on with the Russian war with Ukraine, okay, the Ukraine war, to understand Putin's motivations and why I'm telling you this is the architecture for World War III. Because if he invades Estonia and Poland's like, we're going all in, okay, whoever's with us, because we're NATO, you guys said you would, we need to fight them right here, or else we're screwed, okay? I don't think Putin will stop. I think Putin will use nukes. I don't think he'll nuke the U.S., but I don't know if the U.S. would respond with nukes to his nukes. I don't know right now. Again, when someone shows you who they are, you got to take them at their word. Okay? That right now, the Trump administration is not a big fan of NATO. I don't think anyone's a big fan of getting into a massive land war in Europe and us drafting people. This actually will need a draft. This isn't like, normal warfare. Okay? So this is what we're talking about and why I just noticed it today. Guys, honestly, my live was going to go in a different direction. It was not going to go in this direction. But I saw something today, and I said, holy crap. This is actually the makings of a World War III scenario. All right? So let's listen. Let's take a look at it again. I'm supporting this assertion and this thesis that if Russia invades Estonia and seizes it, okay, that this could lead to World War III. because now the U.S. is really going to be pulled. If we do nothing, Russia will seize another country, and there's no one can stop them. And we said that about Ukraine too. We said, well, Ukraine can't stop them. They're going to roll right over Ukraine. Okay, but fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. Or fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I don't think they will fight the same in seizing Estonia, Latvia, all those countries. I think they'll roll right down. I think they will stop short of Poland because that'll be a real fight. And I don't think they can sustain another fight of that magnitude, of the Ukrainian magnitude. Okay? So let's listen to what they have to say here.
They come in their millions, unfeeling, destructive, ready to tear apart any Russian soldier who is unfortunate enough to get in their way. Putin knows them and fears them. His soldiers are scared to death all over the battlefield, as Ukraine is unleashing a war-ending swarm that is going to be an unstoppable force. The Russian front lines are being flooded with a weapon that Putin's patsies know all too well: FPV drones. The enemy will feel it, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky declared as he delivered a speech to mark Ukrainian Gunsmith Day on April 13th. He went on to declare that Ukraine has developed into a major force as an arms developer, and the primary factor driving this development is the millions of FPV drones that Ukraine is now producing. They have set the stage for everything that Ukraine does now. The interceptor drones, long-range missile drone hybrids, and robotic systems that Ukraine is also developing.
Long-range missile drone hybrids. Okay, I mean, this is they're taking it to a whole new level. It's not just FPV drones, but I'm going to show you some footage of these FPV drones actually smashing Russian positions, hunting individual Russian soldiers down. Okay, like I said, it's going to get a little bit graphic, nothing crazy, but there's going to depict some things that you may or may not be comfortable with. So, just giving you fair warning. Pretty soon I'm going to show that. Really quickly, I saw maybe a question. Let's see here. Propaganda. Putin has a vision of restoring Russia-Soviet borders. Thank you, Propaganda. You are right. Left Freedom Ring. Right, Ben. Thank you. I like being right. Okay, where was this? Someone had a question. Yep, he wrote a paper. He did, Propaganda. John 1422. Does Putin push Iran to keep the U.S. involved, distracted? Dude, of course. Of course. I think you're right. Listen, they've been in cahoots. Russia, China, Iran. And here's the thing. I don't think our current administration is that, I hate to say it, but not that strategic, but in that calculating. Because we have a 4-year election cycle, right? And a 2-year congressional election cycle. Putin's a dictator. Putin thinks long-term. Xi thinks long-term. Iran supreme leader thinks long-term. They don't have to answer to anybody. They're in power, real power, okay? It's hard to compete with that type of strategic calculus. I think for sure he's like, you just distract him, hang in there, beat him up. He might not tell them why, but meanwhile, do you think this serves Iran? Guys, give me a 1 in the chat if you think this Russian action to threaten NATO, to threaten Estonia, or Finland. I don't think they'll mess with Finland. I think Estonia is the target. Do you think this Russian action to threaten Estonia helps Iran? What do you think? I'm going to put my own vote right in here, okay? I'm going to give it a 1. A 1 is a yes, it helps Iran. A 0 is no. 1 from me. Okay, I'm in this. I'm in this, baby. Will Russia invade another country? Our poll from 17 minutes ago, 25 votes. Yes, 64%. No, 36%. We're holding pretty strong right about there. Okay, Doc. Doc, what do you have here? Doc, I doubt it, Mark. Without our blessing, interested in hearing Ben's thoughts. Let me see. Mark. Hey, see you, Pumpkin. Yeah, watch us later. Thank you for being here. Let's see. Mark, UK and France have nukes, but will they use them? You know, Mark, I was talking about this earlier with somebody, and my thoughts are this about the nukes. I don't think they will use them. I don't think so. I'm just saying, you look at the leadership, because if they use them, where are they going to use them? Against Russian military forces? You're not coming close to Moscow. You can use them in a base, some remote base, or somewhere in the battle for Estonia, but you don't want to mess up Estonia with them. So where do you use them? And then Russia has the right to retaliate. And, I don't know, maybe hit Paris? Can you imagine? Or hit London? Oh, Mark, funny you should say that. Who wants to see? Guys, give me a 1 in the chat if you want to see the target list that Russia has for London or for the UK. You guys want to see the target list for the UK? Put a 1 in the chat. Give me a 1 in the chat if you want to see, speaking of Mark's discussion, and I'll put this up here. Okay, good. Jasmine, John, Mark, propaganda. Let's do it. Okay. Yeah, Brian, I think you're right. Helps Iran and China. Okay, Doc wants to see it. Okay, let's check it out. Here we go. Let's check out who they say they're going to hit. Crazy old Putin. You know, he was my favorite from before until the whole Iran thing broke off. We were always talking about Putin and about, you know, all this stuff happening. So, again, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, comment, share. If you know somebody that will like this, we're going to talk about Putin and Russia, the architecture of World War III tonight. We're going to talk about China and their betrayal and how they are actually really deeply trying to undermine the U.S. and actually kill our people is what we're finding out. We just found that out this week, okay? And we're also going to discuss what is going on with this mirage, the Strait of Hormuz mirage. Is it really open? Is it really a real negotiation? Is this war almost over? I have got a hint for you. No, it's not. Okay? There's a lot to talk about. We've got a lot to cover tonight, guys. This may very well turn into a Benathon tonight. So get something to drink. Get ready. Bring your snacks. Bring your questions. Bring your comments to the world's best chat on YouTube. And we're going to go ahead and rock and roll and do this. All right. So what is the target list? Let's take a look. What is our target list? Our target list in the UK is, there it is. List of sites in Europe and UK, both. Let me pull this thing up, okay? Because I got so many windows open. I wish I found a better way, but I don't. Here we go. Okay, brace for impact. Ukraine-Russia war latest. Ukraine-Russia war latest. Here it is. And what does he say? Moscow publishes list of sites in Europe and UK it could attack for helping Kiev. Here we go. The Russian military has published a list of sites in Europe and the UK it could attack for helping to manufacture drones in Ukraine. Not just flying, manufacturing drones for Ukraine. Just manufacturing is a pretext for attack and for war. Russia's former president, head of the country's Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, issued a warning to the UK and Europe on Thursday after the military published a list of 23 sites across several European countries that are allegedly either subsidiaries of Ukraine drone producers or sites where components are made. The Russian Defense Ministry's statement must be taken literally. The list of European facilities which make drones and other equipment is a list of potential targets for the Russian armed forces, he wrote in a post on X. When strikes become a reality, depends on what comes next. Sleep well, European partners. Again, I go back to this, guys. I go back to this. I go back right here. This messaging is having a powerful impact on Russia's strategic calculus. This type of messaging all the whole time through the Trump administration. NATO this, NATO that. We're done with NATO. NATO doesn't help us. NATO's not our partner. We're going to leave NATO. Let's see how you do alone, okay? Well, I'm going to tell you, this is going to result in something, and I think that something is going to be that Russia's going to seize Estonia. They seized Crimea. We just talked about this. They seized Crimea, okay? Now let's look at this list of targets. Here they are. When they become reality, the strikes, depends on what comes next. Sleep well, European partners. This is for drone manufacturing, not even an offensive capability. Think about this. So Russia's sending drones to Iran. Therefore, can't we, by this calculus, by their own logic, can we then strike Russia? Yes, we can. Yes, we can. This is Crazy Town 101. Right? And this is advanced Crazy Town. Advanced Crazy Town. And I'm going to say, only thing Putin understands is power. He understands fear, power, intimidation. He understands getting punched in the face or threat of it. That's what he understands. He understands money and power and legacy, all these things. This is the language he speaks. This is the language he spoke, Stalin spoke, Hitler spoke, Kim Jong-un speaks, and all the people I listed in history over the past few live streams. Genghis Khan, right? skip your Africanus. Although, like I said, he's kind of a good guy. So, 3 of the addresses that they might strike are in London. Just as I was saying, they would strike London, Paris, okay? Where else? Berlin, I don't know. But right now, London, Suffolk. Also on the list were a number of factories in Germany, Denmark, Latvia, Lithuania, the Netherlands, and Poland. This is Cuckooville. This is absolute Cuckooville. It comes as Volodymyr Zelensky called Vladimir Putin a truly global threat. Guys, I saw this week and I was like, well, yeah, he's always been a global threat. But I didn't see this until today. That's why we're doing this live stream like this, okay? Because this is critical, it's urgent, it's important to know. We got to keep our head focused on the big picture, okay? Let's be honest, there's probably not going to be a draft for Iran, okay? Even if we win there, I still think there's going to be a ground war. I still think there's going to be an invasion. I don't think it's going to be mass regime change a la Iraq or Afghanistan, but I think seizing some of the islands around Bandar Abbas and Keshem and the Straits, I think that still is going to happen, okay? Or we're going to pound them into submission and it'll open up because they can't fight anymore. But either way, we're going to have to do some ground action. But I don't think it'll be a big march up to Tehran, that whole thing. I think their own people at that point will rise up because we're going to support an insurgency. As I said in all my videos, watch my videos that are out there, okay? I think, yeah, they're still available. And just watch all my videos that are out there that lead up to this and talk about a ground war, and I'll talk about that, okay? But an insurgency that is led by the special forces, a insurgency against the Iranian government, supported by heavy U.S. conventional forces, not going into the country, but to support them as a quick reaction force. Almost like the same package we saw for the downed pilot. Special forces, insurgent forces, Kurds, they're going in there. Kind of like, if you ever seen the movie Mosul, and you saw, Mosul SWAT, right? All these guys were U.S. Special Forces trained, and that's kind of what I see unfolding to make the regime fall, okay? But now, if on the other hand, if Russia, completely different scenario, if Russia invades Estonia and starts rolling up Europe, I think that Europe is still essential for the United States strategically in many ways. Global economy, economically, culturally, values-wise, power projection, because guess what? If we let Russia seize lots of Europe, our bases are getting rolled up too, because eventually Russia's going to roll in near a U.S. base, a joint forces base, right? They call it Joint Forces Base NATO, a NATO Joint Force Base, which really is a U.S. base, okay? And I'm sorry to my European partners and allies out there. I know, but I'm just saying, these are more or less, they are joint force bases, NATO bases, but they're very heavily U.S. funded, heavily populated by U.S. forces, all that stuff, okay? And that's I think, where Putin would stop, is if there were a U.S. base involved. I think he would stop. Otherwise, you risk the U.S. going all in, right? And then if he doesn't stop, if he doesn't care, that's what I'm saying. You look at total conventional war, large-scale conventional war. Okay, so let's read a little bit more of this. Let's see where these targets are. Zelensky called Putin a truly global threat after the deadliest Russian air bombardment this year killed at least 18 people across Ukraine. Okay, so key points here. Deadliest Russian aerial attack in months kills 18 in Ukraine. Ukraine's killing 400 Russian soldiers a day on the other side. Ukrainian Prime Minister says she feels optimistic of U.S. support after visit. Russia should not be the winner of the Iran war. German minister tells the U.S. So that's to some of your points in here that Russia wins. Russia's winning because of this, because guess what? Russia has their own gas and oil fields, and Europe has to get gas and oil often from Russia. And if you didn't know this, okay, it's interesting, but I think a lot of you know it already, but Europe gets its gas and oil from Russia. And for a long time, the U.S. had to tell them, don't do it. Don't get any more. You're supporting the Russian war effort in Ukraine. Okay? And so we were sanctioning a lot of those things. But what's going to happen is that Russia is the ultimate winner of the Iran war, what they're saying here. And then EU set to release 2.5 billion euros to Ukraine after reforms. Ukrainian drone attacks kills 2, including 14-year-old Russian. 14-year-old Russia says. Okay. Zelensky is still offering Ukraine support in the joint mission to the Strait of Hormuz. Zelensky on Friday called for joint efforts to ensure freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz, and Kiev's wartime experience in the Black Sea could help, is what he's saying. Okay. So we're seeing what's going on with Russia and why Putin's feeling the pressure and how he's reacting to threaten the European allies, our European allies in NATO. Let's watch a little bit more of this one.
Have all been made possible because Putin's invasion forced the country to develop its expertise in FPV drones. Russia has created a monster, and that monster is eating Putin's forces alive on the battlefield. The capabilities of Ukraine's defense industry amount to millions of FPV drones per year, Zelensky roared. Ukraine's drones are now traveling historic distances, with the current record of 1,750 kilometers or 1,087 miles for a single strike likely to be broken soon as the likes of the Flamingo, Neptune, Ruta, and more undergo continued development. But the one place where the millions of Ukrainian drones are being felt most of all is on the front lines. The numbers.
All right, so it gets insane here. Some of this footage. I don't know if they're going to show it here, but I have another video that's going to show it. Let's watch a little bit more here. And guys, if you didn't answer the poll yet, answer the poll. I want to see where we're at in the chat. Didn't we unsanction Russian oil? Yes. Yes, Nick. I'm saying from before, though, we used to. Brian, pretty sure we're leaving NATO so Israel could attack Turkey. Wow. And Turkey wants to attack Israel probably as well, I'm sure. Yep. Hey, Kenneth, how you doing? Good to have you. Okay, let's see where our poll is right now. We got 30 minutes to go, 32 votes. Will Russia invade another country? 66%, 34%. Guys, vote in our poll if you haven't voted yet. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Helps out the channel. And let's watch a little bit more of this because I've still got a lot more to talk about here with Russia and Putin and what they're up to.
As Ukraine's defense industry levels up over and over again, the results are seen in the record numbers of casualties that Russia is experiencing. According to Al Jazeera, Ukraine tallied 35,351 confirmed casualties in March alone.
Whoa, hold on a second. Look at this. 35,000 casualties. Okay, that doesn't always mean killed, but it means wounded in the field. Some of them are KIA, some are killed, but this is 35,000 casualties Ukraine inflicted on Russia in March. In 1 month, okay? Putin's probably losing his mind. And I've heard reports, I've seen reports. We've been very busy with Iran, but we need to take a look at this. I've seen reports that they cannot keep up with their raising of new troops, okay? Their raising of legions, so to speak, like in Roman terms, with how many people are being killed on the front. It's absolutely insane, okay?
35,351 confirmed casualties in March alone, with drones being responsible for 96% of the Russian dead and wounded. That casualty rate was 29% higher than we saw in February, which is a number large enough that Russia can't even use March having 3 more days to excuse it. Compare the first 3 months of 2026 to last year and you get into the real record-breaking stuff. Right now, Russia is suffering 316 casualties for every square kilometer of Ukraine that it captures.
Guys, this is insane. Okay, as someone who's been to combat, been to war, 316 casualties per square kilometer. This is World War II level. Okay, this is like Eastern Front warfare or World War II. They're on the Eastern Front, but I'm fighting against the Wehrmacht. This is crazy. Okay, all right. So we're getting a lot of facts and figures here that are absolutely nuts. But the overall thing is that Russia's facing a real stalemate. Ukrainian drone strikes have also recently hit the Primorsk port in Leningrad, destroying 40% of the storage. Putin is completely embarrassed. I showed you guys a long time ago before when they sunk, using an undersea drone, they sunk a massive Russian battleship, okay, one of their destroyers. Putin has moved the fire brigades. He's moving elements of the Leningrad military district, the LMD, toward the Finnish and Estonian borders. That's what we're talking about right now for those of you who are just joining us. We're talking about this powder keg, the architecture of moving towards World War III, and how Iran does not just affect Iran alone, not just the Middle East, not just China's power, which it does. We're going to show how there was a strategic showdown recently between the U.S. and China in the Strait and who won that, okay? But really, meanwhile, it's like we're letting Putin just do what he wants. Like he's unchecked. I really believe he just feels like, wow, okay, well, I guess I don't matter. Cool. Watch me do whatever I want to. All right. This reflexive control, there's a Soviet era concept where Putin is moving military not necessarily to invade today. Okay, we have to understand the old Soviet era concept of reflexive control. He's trying to get NATO. He did it with Crimea. He did it with Ukraine. Okay, guys, put a 1 in the chat if you remember how in Crimea and in Ukraine, the Russian military continually, it goes to the front. Okay, and I'll come back to this in a second. But it continually, over time, persistently, every year, goes to the front, goes to Estonia, goes to Ukraine, goes to Crimea. Reflexive control. They're trying to get NATO. It's like the boy who cried wolf, right? Wolf, wolf, wolf. No wolf, right? Wolf, no wolf. And even though he may have seen a wolf, right? A few times he might have been kidding. But the third time the wolf comes, everyone's like, screw you. We're not coming to help you. Okay? And by that time, they're already 100 kilometers inside the country, taking people out. So it's real, this reflexive control that Putin is doing is deadening the senses of NATO and deadening the senses of Europe to what his actions are. Okay, it's absolutely unbelievable. And so I got some questions here. Brian Plummer, Russia had to stop platoon-sized missions because they were being decimated. Yeah. So now ops are fire team size. And Brian, I'm going to play a video you're going to see where they take them out too. Even the small teams, they find them and take them out. Does Russia even have enough young people to fight? That's the big question, DeGriff, for sure. People fled Ukraine to avoid draft. Many went to Poland and Russia. Well, yeah, they might find themselves getting drafted there or getting in trouble and fighting anyway. Yeah, Russia's fighting a battle on their soil. They have no constraints. I agree with you on that. Letting both Putin and Xi do what they want, and our president keeps talking about what great guys there. It is clown world. I agree with you. Propaganda. I mean, I think also there's with President Trump, there's a bit of crazy like a fox as well too. He also is doing reflexive control where he wants them to think that he doesn't know what they're up to, or he's acting. I mean, I think he's capable of craziness as well too, where he could turn on a dime on them. So, but yeah, I agree with you largely. So let's see here. Mark, are there any reports of what the regular Russian citizens think of the casualty count? Yeah, actually, there have been some, I believe, some protests, some demonstrations, things like that, which didn't last very long. Let's be honest, it did not last very long. They really can't do stuff like that, right? They risk really getting killed or getting imprisoned or all kinds of things. He might let them speak for a little while, then they disappear. His political opponents, their planes crashed somehow. Oh no, mechanical failure, right? So, absolutely crazy. Diamond Dog, what's going on? Good to have you, man. All right, so let's watch a little bit more of this because there's a lot still to discover here. And I always feel like it's my job to make sure you guys are fully aware of what I see strategically because, again, strategy is so important in battle, business, and life. And this is one thing I work on with my clients all the time, with my coaching membership, my Ferocious Optimist community, my Inner Circle community, my one-on-one clients. But you have to understand the strategic context you're operating in. You have to understand what threats are, what your opportunities are to seize, what threats you have to neutralize. Then you have to work on what is the best way to achieve my objectives, okay? But if you don't understand what's going on in the world around you, you don't understand how these people work, how deception works, how reflexive control, testing you. People test people on an individual basis, okay? Leaders will test other leaders individually. How far can they push you? How far can they push? It's always a test. Maybe not always, but frequently it can be in power politics, okay? And as on a larger scale with organizations and also states, this is on a larger scale where we see what Putin is doing, testing the decision by NATO. And also so NATO becomes decision numb. They become numb to the decision. That's what reflexive control does so that they reach decision paralysis, okay? And now NATO really on the front lines is Finland and Estonia. And if Putin strikes a minor target, does the U.S. enter into Article 5? Does NATO do anything? Is it truly just a paper tiger right now? President Trump called it a paper tiger. Okay? Putin is betting the answer is no under the current leadership. And I think that's exactly where he's going. Okay, let's look at this. We know now, they said these are the targets, right? A bunch of targets in the UK, a bunch of targets throughout Europe, including Germany, Poland, Finland, you name it, Norway, okay? And let's take a look at the devastation of drone warfare up close and personal. I told you guys I'd have this video. We're going to watch it now. All right, here we go. First of all, I've got to find it. This one. All right, I'm gonna open this one up because it's easier. If I open the Strait of Hormuz tracker, we'll get to it in a second. It's easier for me to find what I'm looking for. Okay, here we go. Check this out. Put your question in the chat. And let me know if you have any questions. We'll get to it. That's incredible. Look at this. Watch. Small team hunts him right down. Look at the fear. Look at the guy's face. Look at. That's the end of it. The end of the party. They're dead. It's incredible. It's incredible how proficient these drone operators are. The agility, the flexibility, the ability, the maneuverability, and the range. You can't hide from these things. Wow. All right, I haven't seen this part, so again, this might be one of those really graphic ones. So if you're not down with that, then close your eyes for a minute, okay? Because again, this is pretty brutal stuff, and I'm going to tell you as a former. Oh, you can't see it. Okay, hold on one second. No video. Let me put it back up, guys. Let me make sure you guys can see it. Try one more time. We're going to do one more time. One more time. Because you really got to see it. It's really good. I mean, good meaning bad, but bad meaning good. All that stuff. Okay, so if you guys did not see it, you didn't see the drone, give me a thumbs up. You guys did not see the drone footage. Okay, here we go. We're going again. Let's see this time. You guys should be able to see it now. I'll start once I get confirmation you guys can see it. Okay. All right. Once you guys can see this. Okay, here we go. I can see it on my own phone. Let's do this. Here we go. Now, this is what I want to show you. This is, like I said, this is it gets nitty-gritty detail of what drone warfare looks like. I know you've probably seen things like this before, but this is one of the more intimate ones, up close and personal. I'd seen, obviously, in Afghanistan, I'd seen quite a few with some of the systems we had that would creep right up on bad guys and do their thing and blow them up. So here we go.
We begin today's series with the destruction of a Russian truck by pilots from the Signum Battalion. It had been brought in to build a bridge across the river. However, it was destroyed before it could be put to use. Afterward, Russian soldiers attempted to tow it away using a winch, a move that cost them their lives.
This is nuts. Look at this. Look at this maneuverability. Look at the fear on this guy. Crazy. These are terrifying. You can't get away.
Also on this day, pilots from the Signum Battalion managed to destroy additional Russian logistics vehicles that had been spotted in this area.
This is basically a steerable bullet.
Specifically, ground drones, ATVs, and cars.
Unbelievable. They know they can't get away. There's no way to escape these things. And they have swarms of them. You heard the report before, swarms. So again, when Putin's looking to invade Estonia, he's looking for a new way to establish dominance and power and have his position. Look what's happening to his forces. 400
In the
a day.
following footage, we see 3 Russian soldiers returning from the assault. At a distance relatively safe from machine gun fire, they stopped and began congratulating each other on having managed to get out of.
Okay, again, like I said, this is probably, I haven't seen this part, but this might be getting a little bit graphic, so I think they'll clip it the last second, but you know, this is definitely some intense stuff. So, but my point is this. My point is not to glorify this. My point is to show you what is happening in combat. Even with machine gun fire, direct fire weapons, they work in straight lines. We would always talk about things in the Marine Corps called the geometry of fires, okay? So the geometry of fires means, you know, everything relatively goes in straight lines, right? When you're setting up a final protective line or sectors of fire, okay? Even no matter where you were, if you got a defensive position, you set up sectors of fire. If you're on the offense, you understand that your gun, your weapon works like a straight line weapon system, right? This changes everything because the drones are not straight line weapon systems. They can go undetected, unnoticed, penetrate the lines in swarms, and just wherever you go, they can go. And they have a large enough blast radius with dropping bombs or exploding a kamikaze drone that even if you get into a good hideout, they can blow it up. So bunker warfare might be the next answer, but then they just have to make bombs large enough. And think about how they have to prepare, how the defenses have to be prepared. So if you're Putin, you just lost 1 million people. You're losing 400 a day, okay? 35,000 casualties per month, okay? You're thinking to yourself, is this worth it? And if I don't finish here in Ukraine, I got to get a win. I got to get a win or else I'm going to get overthrown. Putin's going bye-bye, okay? So he's crazy enough for himself, self-preservation, like I said before, dictators ride the tiger, self-preservation, he is going to do something, okay? That's why I think you're going to see him going into Estonia, for real. You're going to see it. All right, let's keep going here. We'll finish out this video.
Alive. However, that was their mistake. They thought they had survived and that there was no danger. But reality turned out to be different. In just a few minutes, a Ukrainian UAV flies toward them and strikes precisely at the center of all 3 occupiers.
Wow.
Severe injuries are guaranteed.
Now they're starting to hear it. They're starting to hear it coming. Wow. Wow. There it is. Wow. That's
In
it.
this video, pilots spotted Russian soldiers attempting to hide their artillery piece in the middle of the forest. The FPVs were already on their way and destroyed the target in just a few minutes.
Wow. It's just a whole new way of fighting, right? It's a whole new way of fighting, and they haven't really found an answer for counter drone technology. So if you've got a defense company and you know how to do counter drone, you can make a lot of money, okay? I was once told, this time last year exactly, I was told by a big defense contractor, former National Mission Force member, friend of mine, that said, hey, if you can figure out a way to stop these drones, you could have a business that could explode, because we're seeing how hard it is to stop them. Okay, so I'm just giving you guys an idea, a picture of the battlefield. We won't keep watching all of this. There's no reason to keep on going on that. But, you know, I just think understanding what Putin is dealing with, he's getting desperate, okay? And I think he sees this issue with the U.S. and Iran as his opportunity, okay? Let me see here. Yeah, Cedric, what's going on, man? Russia never had a fight since Afghanistan. I'm talking prior to Ukraine. I feel like this Ukraine war is like Kuwait 1991 and or more like Iraq 2003, testing new weaponry. I mean, that's a good point, Cedric, for sure. I think the big difference is the level of carnage, right? We're dealing with, Russia's lost 1 million people. Okay. Add robots to this mess and good Lord. That's it, Brian. Exactly. So I think, what's going on, Matt? Good to have you, man. So what I think a big thing is this, right? Again, everybody wants to go see what's going on with Iran. Well, you know what's going on with Iran right now, right? I'm gonna deep dive into the connection between Iran, China, and Russia, and the architecture of World War III. We're gonna talk about it. Stick around because it's gonna come after this, okay? But I think it's so important to understand. Meanwhile, the evil empire to the north, right? Not the Russian people, but Putin, particularly, he's up to more craziness, right? Propaganda says Andrew is there testing things. I bet they are. But Putin is up to craziness and going to invade Estonia, I think. That's what I think. Okay? And he's still doing all this crazy stuff. Let's look at this really fast. Russia versus NATO war soon? ? Putin's aide warns 4 NATO members over helping Ukraine with airspace. So not just manufacturing drones, but airspace too. Russia versus NATO all-out war loading. Global tensions hit boiling point. Moscow blasts 4 NATO states for greenlighting Ukraine strikes. Okay, I mean, this is new. This isn't ongoing. Kremlin warns dire consequences if drone flow to Ukraine continues. So he's got to put pressure on them because they are allowing drone parts, I believe, drones and drone parts to flow in. I don't know all the full details, but you see, he believes it's worth it for him to go nuts on NATO because this is an existential threat. And I think he thinks that the U.S. will not get involved right now. And so this is the only way to stem the drone flow into Ukraine besides their home-based cottage building. Okay? So that's why.
In Russia-Ukraine war, a direct warning coming from Moscow to NATO. And the message is unmistakable. Russia says it may retaliate if 4 NATO countries are found to be helping Ukrainian drone attacks. At the center of this warning, Russia's Security Council Secretary Sergei Shoigu, who has accused Finland and the Baltic states of allowing Ukrainian drones to pass through their airspace.
Wow. Okay, let's look at our map again. Let's look at our map one more time. So they're accusing Finland as well. And guys, I'm learning with you. I didn't realize that. Okay? But they're accusing Finland right up here. So we get a good picture. There's Ukraine with all the fighting, right? But look at our map here. And we're going to see they're accusing Finland, who's here. This is Russia. Okay? It's all in Russian or something, I believe. Sorry. There's Moscow. Moscow's here. I'm circling Moscow. Okay, Moscow's there. This is Estonia. The Baltic states and Finland, they're allowing Ukrainian drones to flow through their airspace. These are long-ass flights, long-range drones, right? So they're allowing them to flow through their airspace to attack Moscow or attack Russia. So they're threatening retaliation. The question is this. If they retaliate, I don't see them hitting Finland. I just don't. Historically, Russia has not done well fighting Finland, honestly. So I think Estonia is probably the number 1 target to go down. Latvia and Estonia. And then they're going to hold that ground. And I don't think anybody's going to do anything about it. That is my prediction. What's going on, Phoenix? Good to have you. The Diamond Dog, Cedric. All right. Mentioned you guys before. Here we go. Okay. So let's look a little bit more at this.
Those countries include Finland, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia.
Okay, so Finland, Latvia.
Countries include Finland, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia.
Finland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia. Let's get back to our map. Okay, here's Finland, Latvia, Estonia. Yep, like I said, these 3 right here. How convenient. They're all in a straight line that we can capture. Thank you for doing that, guys. How easy. I think Russia will avoid Finland. I just do. But Latvia and Estonia, he's got to be laughing. They are not Ukraine. That's for sure. So Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, these three. I think he won't mess with Poland. He'll stay clear of Poland. He's going to test Article 5. I think he'll first hit Estonia. Or he'll probably first hit Estonia, okay? Or he'll take Latvia so that he separates Estonia, right? So there'll be one of these moves right here. I'm just thinking like a military commander. Here's what I would think. Hit Latvia, turn north, hit Estonia, take both, okay? Or you take both at the same time. I don't know what type of prepositioned forces we have there. I know we should have some, but you can't guard the entire border, right? I know Poland is formidable. Poland will be a huge battle for them. And it's such a direct connection through the rest of NATO. But these two, I know their forces there, but I don't know, man. I think the first one to go will be Estonia or Latvia. They're gone. I mean, he'll take them. He'll annex both of them, or not even annex them, just seize them. That's what I think, okay? Guys, stick around because we are going to for sure get into the discussion of Iran, the Strait of Hormuz being open. It's not really being open, okay? And we're also going to talk about China and how China has betrayed the U.S. with targeting intelligence material, with targeting material and intelligence, giving it to Iran to strike American soldiers and service people, okay? Servicemen and women. Especially they had something to do with that KC-130 being destroyed, okay? Yeah, I know, DeGriff, it does suck. But, yeah, right, the Diamond Dog, exactly. Yeah. I think Finland is just pretty rough territory for them. And they're also isolated. And I think it's also just a bigger country. Okay, let's watch a little bit more of this. We're back on our map, but I'm going to go into here. Okay, a little bit more on this. Wow, terrible. Wow. Now, words like this, verbiage like this is a pretext for war. Okay, just so we're all very, very, very knowledgeable about this. Okay. Okay, I got to replay that video a little bit. I think I lost you guys for a second. Let me see here. I lost me. You guys didn't do it. I did it. All right, here we go. Ready? Here we go. Surge, right? There's been a surge. We talked about these massive drone swarms that Ukraine is using against Russia right now. This is what Putin's addressing. Russia invokes UN Article 51, signaling right to self-defense against cross-border threats. All right, all this stuff is lining up. Okay, it's all lining up. Okay. Putin's saying that this is Russia, this is NATO's direct involvement against Russia in the war in Ukraine, okay? And this is pretext for war, pretext for them to retaliate against NATO. Now, you can see here, drone strikes have hit Russian ports and key infrastructure multiple times in recent weeks, okay? So they're using Lithuanian, Latvian, Estonian airspace and Finland's airspace to conduct these attacks. Okay, so they're trying to spread the war, Ukraine is, to other parts of Russia, not just Moscow, not just the front lines. And this is why this is important, because they're expanding the war with NATO being complicit. This is what Putin's saying. Okay? Is he being genuine and honest? I mean, honestly, I think he probably is. Why would he want to attack NATO when he doesn't have to? But I think if they give him pretext, I think he has a lot to gain if he can seize NATO territory, especially when the U.S. right now doesn't seem to care too much about NATO or about especially the Baltic states that used to be part of the Soviet Union. Okay? I mean, it's not like he's going directly and invading the UK or France or Germany or Poland. He's talking about, and he has pretext. They're supporting the war against Ukraine, allowing airspace. I can't allow them to fly their drones through that airspace anymore. So the best way to do that is to seize these countries. This is what he's saying, all right? All right. Let me see. The video, I don't know what happened to it. Let me put it back up. Let me put it back up, guys. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. I'm going to go back. I'll go back to here. All right, one more time. One more time, I want to see. No video still. Okay, I'm got it. Gotcha, Phoenix. I'll glance at the chat a little bit more just for you.
Ukrainian drones to pass through their airspace. Those countries include Finland, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, all NATO members. According to Moscow, there has been a surge in Ukrainian drone strikes on Russian territory. Shoigu claims these drones are reaching targets through neighboring airspace, and that this is causing civilian casualties and damage to infrastructure. But the accusation goes further. Russia says either Western air defenses are failing, or these countries are deliberately allowing access.
I love how he says this in typical Putin fashion. Either the Western defenses, air defenses are failing, because we know they wouldn't let any drones fly through, or they're deliberately allowing Ukrainian drones to fly in. One or the other. And if it's them just allowing them to fly in, then we have a right to self-defense. Okay?
And if it's the latter, Moscow calls it direct complicity. Even more serious, Russia says this could amount to NATO's direct involvement in the conflict. And that opens the door to retaliation. Shoigu invoked Article 51 of the United Nations Charter, which allows for self-defense in the event of an armed attack. In other words,
okay, Moscow says civilians and critical energy sites have been targeted in these drone attacks. I don't not believe him. I believe he's probably telling the truth. It's been a savage war, okay? And the Ukrainians have decided they want to take the war to Russia. Just like Russia has taken the war to them and hit their people, they're attacking them the same way. Now, where it really gets nasty is that if Putin is saying that NATO is complicit, right? This is pretext to invade a NATO country. Again, if I'm a betting man, Estonia is going to go. That's if he were going to invade somebody, he can invade Estonia. He's got the sea to his back. He seizes a port. It's they'd have to do an amphibious landing to take it back, and I think that would probably be easier. That's my guess. Or he's going to seize a country. Let's look at our map. That is close to Belarus. Okay. So, and if this Belarus is right here, okay, this is all Russia. St. Petersburg is up here. Moscow is over here. Belarus is a part of them. Okay, that's their ally. They are completely partnered with Russia. So they may want to I don't know. I think if they get Estonia, it's connected directly to Russia. Latvia will work too. I think they might roll up both Latvia and Estonia, and they have connection to Belarus and Russia. So there's a lot here, okay? There's a lot here. Let me see. Green Line Challenger, what's going on, man? Yep. Cedric, who's so distant from Russia and pushing up this BS? UK and France and others over there, they feel safe and use the Eastern countries like Gresham. Yeah, I mean, you're right. You're right, Cedric. You're right. I mean, yeah, Juan Wick, I don't think Putin's very popular with his people. I don't think so. I mean, you think about this, you know, in Iraqi freedom, it's still a lot of people, right? I know that, but we lost 5,000. Afghanistan, I think we lost 4,000, 3,000. Vietnam, we lost 55,000, 58,000. A lot of people. Russia, in 4 years in Ukraine, has lost 1 million people. That's how many the U.S. lost in World War II, okay? Russia, in World War II, lost 20 million people. So the strategic culture of the countries are all different, okay? They, you know, it's different. Strategic culture of a country matters. I used to study this at the National War College. We studied about what makes certain countries survive. Like, for example, Iran is known to have a very tough strategic culture. And why? Because they have crazy fanatics enforcing it, for sure. Okay, the people don't have much of a choice. As an example, the United States in World War II, hardcore strategic culture, frontiersmen, right? People that went out in the plains in the Old West and how the West was won, all this stuff like that. You know, so we have a very hardy strategic culture. And like Sparta and Athens, the Spartans were known as probably the hardest strategic culture of all time. Maybe feudal Japan would rival them, okay, as in terms of warrior culture. So these things matter more than people realize. Because as you ask, why haven't they just overthrown him? They lost 1 million people for what? Strategic culture and fear, and a security apparatus that can coerce the population into compliance, into obeying. And they're like, well, you go, or you go to jail in the gulag and you die, or you get executed and you die, or, you know, you get arrested and you die, but you're going to die. You're going to die over there with honor and serving your country. And they also have enticed them with money. As they've had a surge in gas, oil, and money, they've given bonuses, things like that. I covered that in some live streams several months ago, 6-7 months ago. But they give them pay and money. They can send it back home. Okay, so there are a lot of other things they do to incentivize them to join and to come into the military. Okay, and the Russians are, frankly, honestly, are betting that they'll never collect these bonuses and this money because they're going to get killed. Okay, so I don't know what other pensions they have, things like that, or bonuses for the family if they lose a son or something. But they have all of that working as well, too, as part of their war machine. Okay, let's jump back in here, watch a little more on this.
So what does this
All right,
mean?
guys, sorry about that pause.
The
for a
line
minute there.
between support and
I'm having video challenges.
infrastructure
and I was looking at the chat a little bit. Hold on. Here we go.
Ukraine has intensified its use, opens the door to retaliation.
Okay, so here's what he's saying.
Even
Real
more.
quick, he's saying that use of the airspace opens the door to retaliation. Okay, and so this is very important to realize that the airspace alone opens the door to retaliation. Sending drone parts and drones opens the door to retaliation. Sending weapons opens the door to retaliation. So I wonder, is this a strategic move by the U.S. to not send the weapon systems already bought by the Baltic states to help them, as per this original video we watched? Let's listen.
All right, good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to...
Was this an actual strategic move to withhold the weapons? Not for Iran, but strategic calculus behind the doors that we don't know about. I mean, here's the thing, guys, okay? You think they're going to tell us everything going on strategically, right? I mean, after the whole Epstein Files thing, we know already that there's a lot of back channel things going on, okay? But there's more than we even can imagine, more than we think that's going on, okay? Backdoor deals, secret plans, things like that, okay? But through this examination of what we see, we can figure it out and see, okay, well, that's happening, this is happening, he said this, they said this must mean this, okay? And in this case, Putin said they're going to attack them, that providing parts, drones, airspace means that we can attack you and defend ourselves. Miraculously, at the same time, or possible coincidentally, the U.S. does not send weapon shipments to the Baltic NATO states. Let's listen.
Another short war video, and today we have more major developments in Iran, Russia, and Ukraine, so let's jump right into it. This morning, reports claim that Russian forces have begun building up on NATO's border as Ukraine warns that a major Russian escalation is imminent in Belarus, and it's coming at a really bad time, as we just learned today that U.S. weapon shipments to the Baltic states are being put on pause.
U.S. weapon shipments to the Baltic states are being put on pause. Okay, I like this guy's channel. He's very good. Okay. So notice how we're falling right in line with what Russia defines as pretext for war, and what defines you as an enemy. You're supplying weapons to Ukraine, you're an enemy. We can defend ourselves. You're providing airspace, you're an enemy. We can defend ourselves. But by that same logic, Russia then is a direct enemy providing drones to Iran against us. Okay, so it all gets very convoluted here. And this is when states in power politics need to focus on what their strategic interests are. What is the most important thing that they need to get done? Okay, because when it all gets confusing and tangled up, you have to focus on the most important critical interests you have for your country. Physical security. Does this affect physical security for the United States? It could, but probably not. Economic prosperity and security. Does this affect economic prosperity and security for the United States? It could, yes. Power projection, values projection, definitely for strategic interests and protecting the economic order, protecting physical security, the ability to project power. Definitely Europe has a very important role to play for the United States. I'm giving you a snapshot of what someone who does real politique, power politics, like the current administration, how they think and how the calculus is going, okay? Let's listen a little bit more here, and then we're going to
More serious. Russia says this could amount to NATO's direct involvement in the conflict, and that opens the door to retaliation. Shoigu invoked Article 51 of the United Nations Charter, which allows for self-defense in the event of an armed attack. In other words, Russia is signaling it could respond militarily. This comes amid a sharp increase in drone warfare.
So I think personally what I would look to see, and you guys put a 1 in the chat if you agree with this, I think what I would look to see is not Russia invading Estonia. Actually, what I think would happen is I think Russia would strike them with their own drones. I think they would go to strike their military bases, their manufacturing facilities. I think they would begin to menace some of their airports, whatever they could do. They're going to have a cost-imposing strategy against them to make them pay the price so that the drone flights from the Ukraine do not go through that airspace again. Put a 1 in the chat if you agree with me on that. A 0 in the chat if you don't. Okay, if you didn't vote in our poll yet, go ahead and vote in our poll. And great to have you here. You guys are with the best chat on YouTube, the greatest chat on YouTube. So many people have said. And great to have you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It doesn't hurt you to do any one of those things, and I'd appreciate it. It helps to grow the channel. But again, let's get a round of applause for the best chat in YouTube right here, as has been said by so many people when they come to visit. All right. Well, you guys, best chat in YouTube, smartest chat in YouTube. And again, that's not just coming from me. That's coming from so many people that have visited our chat here and said how cool everybody is and how smart and the great conversations. So that's all you guys. You guys are doing a fantastic job as usual. Let's go ahead and dig in. And Nick, I saw your comment. I appreciate it, man. 400,000. Yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense. I wasn't sure. I thought it was around 1 million, but again, you can just quickly ChatGPT it and fact check it and tell me. That's off the top of my head. Maybe it's 1 million casualties, but 400 KIA, that makes sense. That sounds about right. But I appreciate it, guys. Definitely less mouths to feed, Brian Plummer. That might be, honestly, they might be it. They might think that way. I don't know. Communism thrives when it has its losses like that. Yeah, you're right. More control, more chaos. War helps them out a lot, right? Yeah, I love it, guys. I love the applause. That's awesome. All right. let's go ahead and look at this, and we're going to close out our Russia segment. Okay, the architecture and the powder keg of World War III. We're going to go into China's betrayal, and then go into the Strait of Hormuz mirage. It's not really closed, okay, or not really open, even though we say it's open right now. And we'll, of course, hit our lessons, leadership lessons of South Park today for everyone as well, too. Okay, let's keep on going. A little bit more here on this video.
Ukraine has intensified its use of UAVs, targeting Russian ports, infrastructure, and energy facilities. Recent attacks have hit key Baltic seaports, including Ust-Luga and Primorsk.
Okay, so this is exactly. They hit key Baltic seaports. Okay, here we are. This is why. So they've directly allowed the Ukrainians to use their airspace to hit the key Russian seaports, okay, along this area. Okay, so it's all through here. Let me see if we can zoom in and find these. I believe it's along here, okay? So this is St. Petersburg, but I believe it's somewhere along this coastline through here, okay? And down south is Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania. Up here is Finland, okay? So the drone attacks are expanded away from the front and doing economic damage and strategic damage to Russia. And so that's why they're reading Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, NATO, the Riot Act, and Finland. Because if they're allowing them to do that, it's causing a bigger problem for the rest of NATO. And we're going to see. We're going to see what happens. But I mean, Russia, I think, is going to take action. 100%. If this continues, they're going to schwack some targets. No doubt about it. Okay? Watch a little bit more, and then we're going to move on.
Triggering fires and disruptions. At the same time, some drones have reportedly entered NATO airspace, but none of the four countries have directly condemned Ukraine for these incidents. That silence is raising tensions further.
Fears rise of direct NATO-Russia escalation as drone warfare intensifies across the region.
Kremlin officials are now warning that providing airspace access would be seen as crossing a line. Russia's foreign ministry has already issued formal warnings, saying if these countries do not change course, they will face consequences. So what does this mean? The line between support and direct involvement is becoming blurred.
All right. I think I know what it means, all right? I think you guys know what it means, too. I think it's going to be a whole lot of problems. That's what I think. I think they are going to strike these countries back. That's what I think. I think that's going to happen, almost no doubt. Okay? And that's what we can look to see. All right. And just when we thought that was the only thing we had to deal with, China is causing problems. But before we get into this story, when we talk about China, get in the chat. Let's see how our poll did. Where are we at in our poll? 1 hour ago, 43 votes. Will Russia invade another country? 58% say yes. 42% say no. How about, let me ask it this way. Give me a 1 in the chat if you think Russia will take military action against Finland, Estonia, Latvia, or Lithuania. One of those three. Maybe they'll do some type of limited airstrikes, drone strikes. They might do drone strikes back at them. Put a 1 in the chat if you think that they will take some type of action like that. Okay? Again, a 1 in the chat if you think Russia, if it doesn't invade a country, will it actually just take military action to do like a punishment strike, a punitive strike against them? Brian Plummer. Watched a clip tonight showing Army soldiers in Alaska training in drone and anti-drone warfare preparing for war with Russia. Damn. Yeah. I mean, that's it. Cedric Meyer says, nope, you don't think so? Okay. Doc says yes. Brian Plummer says yes. Okay. Awesome. Let's get into this other story about China here in a second. But I want to make sure, first of all, that you like, subscribe, and share and comment after I post this, okay? If you think somebody is going to enjoy this, get something out of it, please go ahead and share it with them. They'll get a lot out of it. They'll get to introduce to the best chat in YouTube. We'll have a great time. And don't forget to subscribe. Lots of you watch, and only about 15% of you subscribe. China. That's right, the Diamond Dog. And Doc, Doc says test their boundaries, I believe. Yeah, I believe so too, Doc. I think you're right about that. Okay. We're getting into Benathon territory, Lisa. That is true. We're getting into Benathon territory. Star, it's the idea. Hey, Star, what's going on? Good to have you here. It's the idea, Russia to go into Europe. Yes, I mean, I think so. I think you're right, Star. Unfortunately, I think they would love to, if they can. Helter Zeltzer, Nick, they'll keep messing with their commercial aviation at least. They've been jamming, spoofing all sort of aviation systems lately. Yeah, I think you're right about that, Nick, for sure. Okay. Yeah, Ukraine is useless war, and Zelensky is the protagonist. Yeah, that's, I don't know. A lot of opinions on that, a lot of opinions. But it would be nice to have that war end either way. Russia and China also have mutual defense treaties now as well. I know, crazy, right, Brian? Crazy stuff. But yeah, Cedric, to your point, some people do think Zelensky is a protagonist, but it's kind of hard to argue that for me when someone invades your country and starts bombing the hell out of your capital and your country and your cities, and like you can see how much territory that Russia has seized already, right? It's so it'll be interesting. Thank you, Star. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and jump in to our next story here about China. Okay, here we go. So here's the deal, everybody. Before I play this video, the deal is this. We discovered that China had given access to one of their special satellites, high-resolution satellites, okay, to Iran to strike our aircraft, our military bases in the Middle East, okay? Previously, Iran didn't have that great of technology. But then after China gave them this access to their military satellites, all of a sudden they're able to strike targets, and it resulted in killing some of our service people. U.S. servicemen and women killed. Okay, I believe it led to the destruction of the KC-130 as well, too. Okay, so there was a lot that happened because of that, okay? And let's get into this and see, because China is also in a real hard place with us. They depend on Strait of Hormuz oil. Okay, they get 20% of their oil comes through the Strait of Hormuz from Iran as well, and very low price, very cheap energy. Okay, not to mention, this is a strategic test, a global showdown against China. China is messing with the U.S. in the Strait, and we're going to show you that in a minute here, and how the strategic showdown that could have resulted into something really bad, okay, tested them. And let's see how it all shakes out. All right, how it all shook out. Okay, here we go. Let's get into this. Watch this next part and see part 2, act 2 here of World War III architecture, the powder keg. Russia's raring to go. Russia's upset. Russia has the U.S. distracted. It's this nightmare scenario we always have talked about. If the United States got involved in a major war somewhere else, it was all tied up, and Russia made a move against NATO, and also if there was a falling out between NATO and the U.S., which has happened, and then all of a sudden if China made a move, what's going to happen? We have full-out World War III. We are this close. We are this close. Some people would say no. I disagree. When you see all these things together, all of the actors are assembled for a World War III. All you need is the United States controlling Chinese shipping in the Strait and this causing tension, but that's not happening, is it? Oh, wait, it is? Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Let's go ahead and dive in, okay? Because there's a lot happening. A lot. And I like it a lot. Here we go.
I briefly mentioned at the top of the show, but hugely significant. You're reporting that Iran is using a Chinese spy satellite to target U.S. bases. Okay, explain what you know and the obvious thing here about why this is so important.
Well, I think the important point, Aaron, is that in recent weeks and even last year, we've had stories about Chinese satellite companies providing satellite imagery to the Iranians, but those are actually pictures they then transmit across. What we have here is the Iranians have signed a contract with a relatively new Chinese company called Empasat, and that contract gives the Iranians, the Iranian military specifically, not only access to the satellite, they essentially can control the satellite. They input task orders, they tell the satellite where to look, when to look. And we obtained information showing what they were looking at and what they asked the satellite to do. And we found that they targeted, or they looked down on American US targets in the region, particularly last month. We have data for about a week. And they then hit some of those targets after they had looked down on them. And so I think this is very consequential, because what we know is now the Chinese are providing the Iranians with access to control a satellite themselves that is just for them. And that's significant.
Yeah, absolutely. As you point out, that is distinct from just providing pictures that China may choose to provide, like allowing Iran to control the satellite.
Okay, and so we might be asking, well, so what, Ben? Who cares, right? So what? What does it matter? Well, I'm going to show you why it matters what they let them have access to, okay? Take a look at this, okay? And you tell me if there's any difference.
This is the imagery that Iran was initially able to see during the conflict. Look at how pixelated this is. And then this is the imagery when the Chinese satellite company helped Iran.
Look at the difference.
This is how detailed they could see it. Welcome to today's video, everybody. It's Friday, April 17th, 2026. And we're doing a deep dive into the US-Iran standoff with the fragile 2-week ceasefire ticking down to April 26th.
Let's see this one more time.
This is the imagery that Iran was initially able to see.
Look at how pixelated, as he said it was. They can see something's there, but they can't tell what it is, right? And then when China fixed it and set them up, look what they can see now.
When the Chinese...
Look what they can see now. Look at the difference in this, okay? What a difference. So it changes. Now, could they still target based on the other stuff? Sure they could, okay? But not knowing exactly what's there, what type of aircraft, where exactly they're positioned, knowing exactly what they're looking at, okay? So China really hooked them up with some intense upgrade for their intelligence. It's incredible, right? Yeah, Freedom, you see that? It's nuts. It's really nuts when you see this, okay? Okay. Let's go ahead. And I'm going to talk about this showdown. This showdown of the Chinese versus the US in the Persian Gulf, in the Strait of Hormuz. Let's see what this is all about, because make no mistake, this isn't just a challenge, right? We're not just talking about a challenge of, the US and Iran, the US in the Middle East, but this has a lot to do with China. It has a lot to do with China and Chinese power. And as we know now, almost everything has a lot to do with Russia. And here we are, okay, talking about it. So let's check this out.
Decisively and without hesitation. China had just tested the blockade.
Okay. He's talking about the U.S., how they acted in the blockade when China had tested the blockade with one of their oil tankers, a super tanker filled with oil. They had paid the toll, actually probably no toll for Iran, and they tried to go through, okay? And here we go.
Responded instantly, decisively, and without hesitation. China had just tested the blockade, and the United States had just answered the test. But here is what nobody is telling you about that moment. The tanker turning back was not the most important thing that happened. The most important thing was what it revealed about a confrontation that has been building for years, hidden beneath the surface of trade agreements, diplomatic statements, and carefully worded communiques from Beijing. For the first time in decades, the gap between what China says it can do and what China can actually do was exposed in public, in real time, on the world's most watched waterway. And the implications of that exposure go far beyond a single tanker making a U-turn. Stay with me. Because what is unfolding in the Strait of Hormuz right now is not just a story about Iran. It is a story about the real limits of Chinese power. And the world.
Okay, I think he has a great point here. It's the real limits of Chinese power, because in the world where everyone's thinking China's so powerful, they can do whatever they want to, they actually can't. And this was just proven. Okay, listen some more.
Not just a story about Iran. It is a story about the real limits of Chinese power. And the world is about to find out exactly where those limits are. To understand why a tanker turning back matters as much as it does, you need to understand what was built between Beijing and Tehran over the past decade and a half. Because the US blockade did not just stop Iranian oil exports, it severed a strategic relationship that both countries had spent years constructing and that China had come to depend on in ways that went far beyond the price per barrel. China is Iran's largest trade partner and by far its most important oil customer. The relationship runs deeper than commerce, Iran gave China access to Middle Eastern geography through Belt and Road infrastructure investments, most critically through the port of Chabahar, which offered Beijing a transit point that bypassed traditional American-influenced trade routes entirely.
Okay, so Iran is hugely important for China. Okay, I think we know that. But one of the most important things he's saying right here is the story about Iran. It's a story about China and the limits of Chinese power. Okay?
Story about Iran. It is a story about the real limits of Chinese power.
Okay, that right there is everything. It's so important because for so long we had constructed this idea in the media, even in the United States, that China's so powerful. China will force their way through. We won't mess with them. We'll let their ship go through. One of the scenarios I painted to everybody a few weeks ago, okay, was that World War III could start if we start having to restrict Chinese ships going through the strait. We're bordering them, doing VBSS, visit, board, search, and seizure. We're telling them to go back. If they try to run the blockade, we interdict them. This is Chinese property. This is sovereign Chinese territory, Chinese flag ship, right, out in international waters. This causes some problems. This could lead to big conflict, okay? So, but here, I think he brings up a great point. It is
not just a story about
the limit
Iran.
of Chinese power.
It is a story about the real limits of Chinese power. And the world is about to find out exactly where those limits are. To understand why a tanker turning back matters as much as it does, you need to understand what was built between Beijing and Tehran over the past decade and a half.
Okay, so that tanker was not escorted by a Chinese warship, unlike our good buddies right here, the Russians, who do escort their ships near the UK, a sanctioned Russian oil tanker escorted by a warship. Okay? This is the difference we're dealing with. Russia doesn't give a shit. Okay? Watch.
We're in the middle of the channel, and this is a sanctioned Russian vessel. Her name's the Universal. She's traveled from Russia. She's currently sailing with an escort, a frigate, the Admiral Grogovich.
Yes. Russia sent a big oil tanker right through the English Channel.
Okay, and this was a response that Putin made to Keir Starmer of the UK, saying, we won't be tolerating any more Russian tankers coming through sanctioned oil. We're going to stop them. And he's like, yeah, you're gonna stop my ships, huh? Watch this. And so he sends a frigate with a sanctioned Russian oil tanker. He's like, sanctioned? I don't care. Sanctioned, smanction. This is the difference we're dealing with, okay? China plays the long game. China thinks long term. Big army, strong army, rich country. That's what they want. That is part of their policy and their plan. Strong army, rich country. These are two things they're always going for. I guess we're all going for that. And that means don't get into stupid wars because you expend a lot of blood and treasure and, it hurts you strategically sometimes. Other times you can win, right? But Russia is different. They don't want to listen to these wars. Who sanctioned me? It wasn't you. You don't have the power to stop me. It's only the United States. So they go through the English Channel with a warship. Now, the British Navy is still formidable. It's not like a pushover. But Russia's showing we'll fight for this. Will you? And guess what? If you sink our oil tanker, you sink our frigate, we're going to come over and blast the crap out of you, which they would. Okay? So let's take a look at this a little bit more, right?
But this time with a Russian frigate to keep it company. Frightening stuff. Joining me from London each Thursday is Patrick Christie, star presenter at GB News. Patrick, that is what I call absolutely humiliating for Britain. It puts out a press release, we're going to stop them. And Russia says, yeah, you and whose army sends a Russian frigate this time as an escort to a tanker. What's the reaction been from your government?
Well, the reaction from the government has been absolutely nothing. They didn't even give us a comment last night. We reported this on GB News.
The English Channel is like really small. People swim across the freaking English Channel, okay? The Strait of Hormuz is bigger than the English Channel, I believe. You guys fact check me, tell me I'm wrong. Nick, fact check me. You'll tell me if I'm right or wrong. But they sent a friggin' frigate through there. A friggin' frigate. That's pretty good. Say that 5 times fast. A friggin' frigate they sent through there, okay? Contrast that, except I know we're done with our Russia segment, but I gotta bring it. There's a lot to talk about. That's why I brought up Russia. We're missing the freaking point. We're paying so attention. I think Brian might have brought that up, or somebody talking about Mitt Romney saying you're missing the point. Russia's the real enemy. right? And going back to this guy's video, okay, the real limits of Chinese power. Here it is, right?
Is about to find out exactly where those limits are, to understand why a tanker turning back matters as much as
the limits of Chinese power and a tanker turning back. I'm going to go to the very beginning one more time, like we're in class, right?
The tanker was 20 minutes from the blockade line when it made its move.
This is a Chinese tanker.
No warning, no radio communication, no request for permission. The vessel named Rich Starry simply adjusted.
Oh, the Richard Starry. You guys, remember we've been tracking this one for so long. Hold on one second. We've been tracking this Richard Starry for so long. Put a 1 in the chat if you guys remember that we've been tracking the Richard Starry for so long. Okay? Put a 1 in the chat if you remember we've been tracking the Richard Starry in the Strait of Hormuz. I'd always bring it up. I'm like, look at this one. This is in China. Oh, there it is. And I'd always act like it was new. It was the same place. Okay, here we go. Let's see now. Woo! 350 ships are waiting to go through. Let's see the Richard Starry. Let's see if we can find it. Let's zoom in. This is the ship in question that got turned back by the U.S. So it must be like here. Nope. 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 Maybe he's here. Remember, the red triangles are oil tankers. The green are cargo. There's Turkey, Indian shipping crew, China. Let's see. The Richard Starry is the one we've been looking at for a long time. Okay. Anyway, it looks like everybody's getting geared up because they think they can go through. But really, what's the real thing? You see how many more ships are here than last week, guys? The ships right here. Cedric, no, I don't think North Korean soldiers are going to come around Iran. I don't think so. I personally just don't think so. I don't know. Maybe. I think they lost a lot of people in Russia, though. But look at all the ships here. Last week, these were all tucked away back in here. They're all getting ready for the Straits to be open to go through. But that's the question. Are the Straits really open? Well, I'm here to tell you, no, not really. No, not really. Not a damn thing has changed. So enjoy the rise in the stock price. Enjoy the drop in the oil prices right now. But it's going to come right back in a day or two. I'm guarantee you. I guarantee you. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Tell your friends because we're about to get really awesome in here in this Benathon. This is going to be a Benathon today, okay? Unfortunately, for everybody who thought we were going to get out of here early. Fortunately, unfortunately for you, you're stuck. You're staying. You're not going anywhere. Get a drink. Get a little snack. Settle in. Because the preamble was Russia, okay, of the World War III architecture. The powder keg that we're going to describe here is going to blow you away, okay? Tell your friends. Greatest chat on YouTube is here. Let's fire it up, everybody. Let's get it going, all right? Now, we're showing the marine traffic. It's a lot more because they still have to pay the damn toll, the $2 million toll, and then they only get stopped by the U.S., okay? Blockade's still there. Yes, they're not going to shoot anybody. It's still the same rules. You pay the money, we let you through, but then the U.S. is going to stop you, okay? The Richard Starry, I don't know where it is, somewhere over here. They had it turn around. I think it might be here. No, it's not the Richard Starry. We could find it later. But this is what it looks like. And according to the Straits of Hormuz tracker, and we'll come back to this in a second, 49 days closed. This is what the Straits look like, right? The flow, there's Keshem Island there. There's La Roque. 8 ships transiting right now, okay? Let's see. Price of Brent crude oil, 109 per barrel. It's all the way down. That was at its peak. It's down to 92 right now. But just think, pre-war, it was down to $60 a barrel back in December 25. Then in January, it got up to like 65. Then as the rhetoric started going crazy, once the war started, it skyrocketed, right? All the way up to 109, okay? So we'll get into this some more later. Let's continue on where we were with China. Here we go.
To take the pictures themselves to do the targeting. You mentioned that it was U.S. bases, that you were able to look at data where you could see that the Iranians were using that satellite to look at U.S. bases that they then later targeted. I want to put up a map that you and your colleagues made. These are key sites in the region that you saw the satellite look.
Okay, so this is the Iranian T-01 Bravo satellite monitored key sites in the region. This is the T1 Bravo is 01 Bravo is with the Chinese satellite that was given to the Iranians to use, access to it, okay? And so they're targeted in on Ali Al-Salem Air Base in Kuwait, Erbil Airport, Jordan Air Base. These are all U.S. bases, basically, okay, with U.S. assets there, okay?
That were targeted. One of the crucial pieces here is that air base in Saudi Arabia, which Iran has targeted at least twice, and with devastating precision, right? Devastating precision on one of those key command and control spy planes, right? Where they didn't just hit the plane on the runway, they hit the part of the plane where the controls were. Obviously, incredible precision on that. How was the satellite used for those? Do you understand?
Well, what we were able to ascertain, both in terms of information we received, which we corroborated by looking at where the satellite was at certain points of time in its orbit, is on March 13th, 14th, and 15th, that satellite, which is called the T01B, was looking down at the Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia. We believe that the
oh wow, I think that's where the KC-130 was destroyed and the crew was destroyed. So let's listen a little bit more.
Attack on the 5 refueling tankers happened on March 13th. So it gave them a precise look at a big American target. And another thing that's worth mentioning is, Iran has some satellite capabilities itself, although some have been degraded, but the resolution that they can get is not very good. This Chinese satellite has resolution that's at least 10 times better, and in some cases more, than the Iranian satellites. It can see down to about half a meter. So that gives you a really good ability to target.
So in case you missed it, let's take a look at exactly what does that mean? What does it look like? And I'll show you again. We looked at this a minute ago, but I'm going to pull it up for anybody who missed it, okay, in case you didn't see it. But this is the difference between the Iranian satellite and the Chinese satellite that was given to them, okay, the access they were.
This is the imagery that Iran was initially able to see during the conflict. Look at how pixelated this is. And then this is the imagery when the Chinese satellite company helped Iran. This is how detailed they could see it. Welcome to today's video, everybody. It's Friday, April.
Huge difference. Max Afterburner there. He's got good stuff. I like him. Okay, so we know that China's been helping Iran. Here's a Reuters. Okay, I try to give you guys as many sources as possible so that you can see a lot of different voices and a lot of different, people that are covering this, but here's a Reuters report. Iran used Chinese spy satellites to target U.S. bases. Beijing denies the story. You can't deny it. It's undeniable. These are leaked Iranian documents on satellite use for targeting U.S. bases. China's foreign ministry and embassy deny the report, call it disinformation. The White House, CIA, Pentagon, and Chinese firms did not comment to Reuters. Iran secretly acquired a Chinese spy satellite in late 2024 that has allowed it to target U.S. military bases across the Middle East during the current war. Now, the question I had in my research was this. Was this done as the war started or before? According to the research I got done for this live stream tonight, it looked like they already had this. They already had access before. You see that in the report? 2024 is when they had access to this, okay? And so it's in question whether China actually gave them targeting material during the war itself where they would strike our targets. But no matter what, the reason why they were so accurate in striking our KC-130s and attacking our refuelers was because they had the targeting data. They had the satellite imagery and knew how to put that into targeting systems and to destroy our aircraft, okay? So as part of this deal, it says the IRGC received access to commercial ground stations operated by Impensat, a Beijing-based provider of satellite control and data services with a network extending across Asia, Latin America, and other regions, according to the report. Of course, they deny it, okay? Of course they do. Not a surprise there. Guys, put a 1 in the chat if you think China is actually supplying weapons and intelligence info to Iran. Put a 1 in the chat. And I know that President Trump had to talk to China and say, do not provide weapons to them. But again, what our buddy here in his report says is that there's a huge reason for China to defend Iran. Okay, because the Belt and Road Initiative, the access to the ports that they gave them that go around the traditional routes and strategic lines of communication. Let's listen a little bit more to this. He deepens the reason why Iran is so important to China. Okay, here we go.
Oil customer. The relationship runs deeper than commerce. Iran gave China access to Middle Eastern geography through Belt and Road infrastructure investments, most critically through the port of Chabahar. which offered Beijing a transit point that bypassed traditional American-influenced trade routes entirely. In exchange, China gave Iran something equally valuable: technology, infrastructure, diplomatic cover in international forums, and, perhaps most importantly, a shadow fleet of tankers that moved Iranian crude to Chinese refineries in defiance of Western sanctions, keeping the Islamic Republic economically functional through years of maximum pressure campaigns that would otherwise have strangled it. The two countries had built a system, a pipeline of oil, money, and strategic protection flowing between them that operated largely outside the frameworks Washington controlled. Iran needed Chinese demand to survive economically. China needed Iranian oil to stay cheap and its Middle Eastern foothold to stay relevant geopolitically. And then, on April 13th, 2026, the United States Navy shut the entire system down in a single morning. Karg Island, the heart of Iran's oil export infrastructure, through which roughly 90% of Iranian...
He had a pretty good take right there. Okay, so it's more than just the oil. It's geopolitical. It's geostrategic access. It's the how they protect each other through, you know, energy and money and avoiding sanctions. It's like a shadow fleet, all these things like that, okay? So lots of reasons why China does not want to see Iran getting the regime change or getting destroyed, anything like that, okay? So we definitely look to see China trying to support the regime at every turn, every time they can. So let's look at, before we move on, I'm going to get in the chat a little bit. See what everyone's up to in here. All right, let's see what we got. Nick, any idea how good their targeting is? Because it's like super inaccurate regardless of image quality. Then it can be less of an issue for imaging. Yeah, I think it's their accuracy with their weapon systems. I think even if they give them the intelligence, if they can't dial it in accurately with their weapon systems, then it's, you know, it's not as big of a concern, right? But I mean, I will tell you, you know, the Scud missiles, things like that, or different missile systems, when they launch them, let's say that they have an accuracy, they may miss by a kilometer. These are area weapons, right? So if they put it dead center in the middle of an airfield, there's a chance that they might never hit exactly what they aimed it at, but there's a chance they could hit something on the airfield, some part of the airfield or the airstrip. There's a chance if they're trying to aim for a city, these are city weapons. These are area denial weapons, right? So let's say it is a 500-meter area of accuracy, right? Range of accuracy or error, or 300-meter. Now you're getting dialed in. It's not like our smart bombs and our smart missiles that come down to 1-meter accuracy, right? Or 10-meter accuracy. Like, you know, you're doing serious damage with something that's accurate. That is that accurate. So very important. And let me see what other questions we got here. Okay, a lot of ones. I see that, guys. Yeah, China was instrumental in killing some of our troops and destroying some of our assets. Yeah, I think so. And I want to say that I don't remember a time when the U.S. was responsible for killing Chinese troops, right? Not right now, except for the Korean War. The Korean War, obviously, a whole lot. Cedric, I don't understand why we can't jam their satellites. That's a good question. It's a good question. I don't know if it works like that for taking pictures and for doing that type of work, but I do know if you go up and you destroy people's satellites that, first of all, you create a lot of debris in space. Second of all, I think that is an act of war as well when you do something like that, especially out in space. That's probably why, but a good question. Yeah, open with 95% drop in traffic. Exactly. I didn't even see that it was open. It looks like it's still restricted. Okay. Yep, you're right about that, Brian. 75% of the planet is water. That's 100%. So, some of the key points here, right? The satellite smoking gun, we have the leaked documents that prove the IRGC bought access to the Chinese Earth Eye Company satellite. The March 14th strike. This tech was used to monitor Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia, and it provided the lead for the Iranian Gold, the drone strike that destroyed the US C-130 and killed our people, okay? Direct combat support. This is the first time that China has directly enabled the killing of U.S. personnel in decades. This is a declaration of shadow war, for sure. Now, the question is, what will we do about it? I think China crossed a real line here. They crossed a real line. You know, if they didn't want this to happen, they could have easily shut down the access to the satellites, but they didn't. Okay? And again, Russia providing drones back, their own Shahed drones back to them, providing targeting intelligence material back to them, okay? And in President Trump's own words, well, we do it to them. You know, I don't know if that's the right answer to have. That's for sure. Direct combat support. This is the first time China has directly enabled the killing of U.S. personnel in decades. This is a declaration of shadow war, right? Like we said. So I think knowing that this is a shadow war, what will we do about it? And again, looking at what will the U.S. do? And then also, what are we going to do with Russia doing all this as well, too? And again, as I said, I don't know if this is the right answer for President Trump to have, saying that, well, they do it to us. That's not an answer the American people, you know, we do it to them. That's not an answer the American people want to hear. We do it to them, right? You got to be more decisive than that. And the decisiveness needs to be, we're going to do something about this, right? You need to stop this or else, right? And then maybe Putin's going to come back and say, yeah, well, you need to stop this or else, okay? And again, it goes back to my point that maybe us withholding the Balkan states, NATO states, weapon shipments that are already paid for has something to do with that. Maybe it does. Again, behind the scenes, backdoor, back channel discussions, all those things are happening, okay? So let's talk about now, we're going to get into Iran, the moment you've been waiting for, and we're going to discuss why this is really a mirage, okay, and why the Straits are not really open. And honestly, I hate to say it, I don't have much confidence this is going to end. I really don't, okay? I don't have much confidence. I hope it does. Trust me, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I'll be the first one to say it. They did it. They pulled it off. It's all happy. Everyone's good. I just don't think so. I don't think so. Okay, and I'm going to show you why here in a minute. All right, let's get into this. New poll. Our next poll is now going to be up. The next poll is up, and it is going to be, do you think the war in Iran will end soon? Do you think the war in Iran will end soon? Just want to get an idea here, okay? Doc said, sorry, Ben, didn't know if the KC-135 damage was confirmed, but definitely chatter. Yeah, I think so. I think it was. I think it was destroyed, and I think we lost service members from that. I thought at first it was just crashed, but I believe that, and I might be mixing up two things, but you guys can look it up and tell me. But I do know that they destroyed some of our aircraft on the ground, and it caused other damage as well. And I'm not sure if the KC-130 crashed and we lost people from a crash that had nothing to that was associated with the operation, but not because of a strike, or if they struck it when it was on the ground. I'm not sure. So I don't want to lead you astray. But you can check that out and report back inside the chat. That would be awesome. I know some things. I don't know everything though. That's for damn sure. All right, let's get into this. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And pass it on to your friends. Best chat on YouTube. Let's get going on this Benathon here. Because we need to take a look at the Straits of Hormuz and the situation in Iran and what is going on here. Okay? Because a lot of promises have just been made. A lot of stuff has been said. A lot of, hey, Straits are open. It's going to be over soon. We're going to get what we want. We're negotiating. All these things are happening. Okay? But as you can see, there are 300 and something ships waiting. 300 ships waiting to transit the Straits. And we see the flow. There's nearly no flow. Right here, vessels waiting, 350. Transiting, 8 ships right now. Restricted since April 16th, 1. Okay, so they're saying that there's a restricted flow right now, not just closed. Okay? So we have all this, the Straits of Hormuz. Let's take a look at this next report we have right here.
The world needs is for reality to catch up with the marketing.
And that's just it.
Trump said many, many things today about the war with Iran. A deal was 1 or 2 days away. The Strait of Hormuz is wide open. Iran has agreed to almost everything, including, the president said in a conversation with my colleague Weijia Jiang, a joint U.S.-Iranian effort to remove all highly enriched uranium from the country. This handing over of the keys to Iran's nuclear kingdom would come, Trump told Weijia, without the U.S. handing over even $1, not even.
This is laughable. This is laughable. But I want to tell you that there's some reports out there that I'm seeing that are saying that President Trump saying all these things is causing massive dissension and internal dissent in the IRGC in Iran. There are other reports saying that because of these tweets and because of what Trump is saying, how they're just rolling over and surrendering. You have to remember, inside Iran, communication's very limited right now, okay? So again, as much as we are being very critical about the administration and the president and everything, going on, it might be crazy like a fox because it's taking a toll psychologically from what it appears to be, okay? It still needs to be proven, and over time it'll shake out. But it appears, though, that this is causing internal dissension and structure rupture. They're going crazy where they're infighting against each other, okay? So the IRGC is having a lot of internal strife because some of them are such hardliners, and they're saying they're accusing others of surrendering and giving in and negotiating with the Americans. And of course, I'm sure the CIA is planting as much deception and crazy stuff as possible, okay? And then you have the president backing it all up with these tweets. Again, we don't always know what's going on behind the scenes, okay? But we can judge what we see and what we hear. And I will tell you, as a strategist, as a leader, you need to make sure your people know what the hell's going on, okay? Now, you're at war, you can't reveal everything. But you got to make sure the domestic popular support is there. Otherwise, you won't have it when you need it, okay? And if the people are all wondering, hey, why are we suffering? Gas prices are up, food prices are up, living expenses are up. We're going to war. We're spending all this money. We have issues at home. Come on, boss. Tell us what's going on, right? Come on, president. Tell us what's going on. And you see crazy rhetoric like last week. It doesn't cause calm. It doesn't cause stability. It causes craziness. But it turns out it causes craziness and instability within the IRGC too. Okay? So anyway, let's get into listen a little bit more. But just want to mention that to you guys that I saw reports of that as well. I didn't put it in here, but that is something I'd seen several times, that they're infighting, a lot of infighting.
In Trump's words, 10 cents. About all of this from the president, Iran has said next to nothing. It did say, however, through state-run media that the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, that's the IRGC you hear so much about, would continue to supervise passage through the Strait of Hormuz. Might it exact tolls? Unclear. Is that perceived as menacing? Mostly yes, as vessels appear as hesitant today to transit the strait as they were yesterday. Also, this might be important, the U.S. blockade of any vessels linked to Iranian ports continues, which Iran said constituted a violation of these new current understandings.
Okay, so you see where they're going with this, okay? He's saying that we're saying the straits are open, okay? Straits are open, but as I'm saying here, I'm going to show you guys another one. Straits are open, but you must use the previously coordinated route, okay? You can't use any old route you want. And the previously coordinated route, you know what that means? It means come pay the toll. So again, why do we see this on the map? I'll show you. Why are we seeing this in the Straits? Look at how many ships are getting close to Keshim Island and close to Larak. This is like where their toll booth is. That's why. The toll booth right here. They're waiting for the U.S. to pull the blockade away. They can pay the toll and they can go. So the toll hasn't changed. The IRGC is still supervising the strait. They still control it. Okay? This is the important takeaway. That nothing has changed. This is BS. This is just using words and rhetoric to change the marketplace and to increase the market, prices, to make, us not kill the stock market, to make the oil prices go down, to create some stability in the global marketplace, right? In the global economy. That's what's going on right there, okay? That's what that's all about. And it is not because anything has changed, in my opinion, from what I'm saying, in my judgment, from what I'm seeing. Let's keep listening.
How big a violation? No one knows. And yet, markets exploded this morning with enthusiasm, though they trimmed their sails in some late session trading as, well, diplomatic scolds reminded the traders on Wall Street that much about all this remains unsettled and opaque. Oil traded down for most of the day. That was good news. West Texas Intermediate fell 10%. Brent crude fell 9%. Those futures, though, also crept up a little bit in the afternoon. In the main, though, markets bought in optimism. It's going to be up to the diplomats to deliver reality.
Now, the markets are going to catch up, right? When we see that really nothing has changed, okay, if the negotiations don't work, but the world loves negotiations. They love a ceasefire. They love the fact that there's a ceasefire in Lebanon too, okay? So it's creating some market stability right now. But will anything actually happen? Will anything actually happen? Okay? And as I've asked you guys here in the poll, please answer the poll. If you haven't responded to the poll yet, please respond to the poll. You guys hit it on the head. Do you think the war in Iran will end soon? 13 votes 9 minutes ago. No. 92% no. Yes, 8%. I hope you're right. Guys, if you didn't get a chance to vote in our poll, please vote. Do you think the war in Iran will end soon? Give us your vote. We can all learn together and get some good different perspectives in here. All right, guys, let's keep on watching and get to the bottom of this.
Another round of U.S. talks with Iran could commence in a couple of days, according to our latest CBS News reporting. Trump said today he might even travel to Islamabad, Pakistan to finalize a big deal. The key word in so many of today's headlines, might. This might happen. This might be happening. We have, by all accounts, entered into the TBD phase of this war. So many contours to be determined. We begin tonight with CBS News Pentagon reporter Eleanor Watson, who joins me here in the Conversation Corner. Eleanor, what did Iran say about all this today?
Well, Iran kind of responded to this flurry of posts by President Trump. He was posting to kind of manifest a deal that he wants, while Iran is continuing to try and set its own conditions. One of those posts, as you mentioned, was he said Iran proclaimed that the Strait of Hormuz is fully open. Iran said, not so fast. We say it's open, but if you go along our controlled route, saying Iran is still essentially in control. Another post President Trump made was that Iran has agreed to give up the nuclear dust, his term for near bomb grade enriched uranium, about 900.
All right. So you see there's a lot of aspirational stuff here that Trump's talking about, but I don't think it's going to happen. Okay, they're going to give up the weapons grade uranium, the dust, all the stuff like that, joint venture to do it together. This is just, to me, it's just all aspirational. It's all wishful thinking. He's trying to manifest it like The Secret, like the lady who wrote The Secret, right? If I just see it and speak it into existence, it will happen. Okay? And I'm not making fun of that because, sometimes that might work, but I don't think it's going to work with Iran so I am making fun of it. Yeah, actually I am. I don't think it's going to happen. Okay? I don't think it's going to happen. But that's what she's talking about there. And I think it's just, we're getting a lot of wishful, hopeful thinking. So just so we can swing back the other way, I'm going to give you a dose of reality from Mr. Douglas McGregor, Colonel Douglas McGregor, who's a card-carrying pessimist for all things about this war. And let's hear what he has to say on it. But I will tell you right now, it's going to be a little bit of doom and gloom here, okay? Big splash of cold water in the face. And he's saying we're going to be launching a U.S.-Iran ground invasion soon. So, a man of my own heart, obviously, that's what I think, that the only way to really seize control of the Straits, if we are going to do that, is through seizing the control of the Straits physically, okay? And I don't see Iran really backing down. And again, there might be some magic negotiation that happens, some magic incentives. I've also heard the fact that we're going to release billions of dollars to Iran. I've heard this, okay? So everybody out there who was bashing on Obama and Obama's deal back in the day and giving them billions of dollars, well, guess what they're talking about? Look around, guys, after the show, okay? I didn't bring it up here and here, but a lot of reports out there saying we're also going to be releasing billions of dollars in like sanctioned funds and things for them if we end this peacefully and if they open up the Straits and don't bother anybody, okay? Now, make no mistake, we kicked the crap out of them militarily. We literally sent them back to the Stone Age, like the president was saying, militarily. Okay, we destroyed so much of their stuff. Okay, but the regime has not changed. Still the same political system, still the same hardcore believers, still the same control, all those things like that. Okay, and they still have physical control. They still have weapon systems. They can still reach out and touch people. But they're definitely whooped down a lot. Okay, so again, I'm not going to criticize that, but I'm saying, maybe it's not going to work, though. Maybe it's not going to work. Okay, if they can get a peaceful deal done, great, right? But I think they underestimated their enemy. They underestimated their enemy and exactly what they'd be capable of. And they're criticizing everybody else, making fun of everybody else, and they realize, oh crap, we might have to do the same thing. Give them money, and then they'll maybe play nice. I don't know. Maybe we have to rebuild their stuff. They have to make some reparations. I don't know. Okay, I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm just saying, guys, the things that I've seen in the research. All right, calling it like I see it. Let's listen to what Colonel Douglas Macgregor has to say. Very negative.
And apparently Zionists. That's enough to qualify them to go represent the interests of the United States and the American people. Put this picture together and you ask, well, what are you going to do now, Donald? And I think Donald has concluded that he only has one option, and that is to utterly destroy Iran, because he thinks that will compel the disintegration of the Iranian state and society and ultimately compel the Iranians to do whatever the Israelis want them to do, because after all, that's what this is all about. We are not making demands. We say there are demands, but they are Israeli demands. What's the first Israeli demand? No more uranium enrichment. Absolutely off the table. Have to give it up completely and have to surrender your sovereignty to us by allowing us to inspect and ensure that that's the case. Well, the Iranians aren't going to do that. If they've learned one lesson from this war, they've learned that if you don't have a nuclear weapon, you are vulnerable to attack by the United States and Israel, both of whom do have nuclear weapons.
And that's one thing for sure that a lot of strategists have said, and a lot of professors and historians, and also military officers. He's a retired, I believe, Air Force colonel. The same thing, they've said that if Iran didn't have a nuclear weapon before and didn't have full designs and they weren't rushing like hell to get one before, you better believe they're going to rush like hell to get one now. Okay, why? Exactly what Colonel Macgregor is saying here. Okay, what old Doug Macgregor is saying is that they're learning that you get bullied when you don't have one, okay?
Are vulnerable to attack by the United States and Israel, both of whom do have nuclear weapons. And I think the others are very simply, you've got to dismantle most of your ballistic missile arsenal, because that threatens us, and we want you to be vulnerable to attack in perpetuity by us. So that has to go. And then finally, what's the last one? Well, I think the last one is you can't work with or support any of your friends in the region. What? Yeah. So the Iranians have said, no, we can't do that. Well, then you must be destroyed. End of discussion.
Okay, and see, that's where I've been going with this as well, too, guys. You know my through line throughout all this. My own personal beliefs is that you're going to put them in a place where where they can't do anything, and the ultimate result is the regime has to change. Okay, the demands they're making. It looks really good that we're going to negotiate, right? Negotiations are happening. It looks really good. Okay, the U.S. is trying to get negotiations. That's good. We're trying to get peace. But when you are negotiating from a position that they can't meet those demands, and they won't meet the demands because, in essence, you're leaving them so vulnerable that they also will be so weakened that it's an existential threat to them that they won't agree to it. And instead, they'll say, well, we'll just continue fighting. Because in negotiations, we have something called a BATNA, right? Our best alternative to a negotiated agreement. And the BATNA is something that you have to build behind the scenes. The best alternative to a negotiated agreement for Iran is close the straits, keep them closed, attack ships, fight to the death. Let them have a ground war here. Okay? So, no, we're not going to do it. And what are you going to do about it? Well, we're going to pound our fists, stomp our feet, and do nothing. We're going to attack you again and bomb you again. They're like, okay, well, you bombed everything that could be bombed. Now there's stuff that you can't reach, and we're not quitting. Okay, and I've heard talks as well that within 2 weeks they're going to run dry of all their oil. Therefore, they won't have any money. They can't pay people. Okay, and people will uprise and overthrow them. I've heard this before. You guys have heard it before. Oh, this is the time. They're going to uprise and overthrow everybody. They're going to uprise and overthrow them. Okay, wow. That's it. Uprise and overthrow because they can't pay them now. I think the time you'll see uprising and overthrowing is no water, no food, okay? Which I think they have. I think they have. And I think we're not attacking the desalinization plants. But again, it goes back to what I talked about last week, guys, where I said, are we willing to create a level of destruction that's on par with what Truman did, what Franklin D. Roosevelt called for in World War II, and what Truman did in Japan, Nagasaki and Hiroshima? FDR said to create a level of destruction so great in Germany and Japan that the warlike cultures of these countries will be eradicated and destroyed and forgotten. They're going to start over, and we're going to put bases there, and we're going to, people have our young troops there who are going to marry into the culture and things like that. Like literally, this is like Alexander the Great level stuff. This is like medieval, ancient warfare, Rome level warfare type of stuff. And then we will settle the territory, and our people will be with your people, and we will create a new, happy, interwoven, interconnected culture, right? Through all kinds of stuff. So I mean, but you got to be ready to do that. You got to be ready to do Alexander the Great stuff, and take Alexander the Great level losses and Rome level losses, right? Or inflict that much damage that we did in World War II. And again, this was against an existential threat that had declared full war on us and preemptively striked us. We lost 2,300 people in the morning in Pearl Harbor. I'll say it again. I said it before. Okay? Let's keep watching this because I think he has a lot of good stuff to say here. It gives you a good counterpoint to what's being said out there about this is almost done. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope he's wrong, and I hope I'm wrong. I want to say that for the record. I really do. I just got to tell you what I feel in my gut. And honestly, what I've always learned in the Marine Corps is that hope is not a course of action. You have to have a strategy, right? It's good to have hope. You want to have hope. Hope gives you inspiration, things like that. But you need to back that up with action, strategy, sound calculus of your assumptions and the risks involved, okay? Here we go.
And even though Israel's in very poor shape, has sustained a lot of damage, there's no question about it. We're not allowed to see it, obviously, but it's pretty severe. And large numbers of people have left Israel trying to get out, obviously the Jewish citizens of Israel. But the bottom line is that we're all waiting around for the ceasefire to end. And that's just the pause, rearm, refit, replenish. So that ends on Monday. So I think on Monday, they will commence the mother of all bombing campaigns. It'll be
okay. So, guys, he made this interview 14 hours ago. 14 hours ago, Colonel McGregor made this statement, okay? He's a geostrategic thinker, strategist, all right, like me as well. And I think he's right. I think I'm gonna tell you, remember I talked about the art of deception. I put up Sun Tzu before, and I said that every war has deception woven into it. And you want to act like you're doing the right things. You want to be like, look, we're trying to negotiate. Meanwhile, refit, rearm, resupply, reload, fix, do maintenance, and all these aircraft, the weapon systems, the ammunition, the ships, right? Get deployment orders cut, get everything set. Because if it doesn't work, and I'm guaranteeing you, they're like, yeah, we'll give him a shot. But in their heart of hearts, they really think Iran's going to quit? No, they don't. Okay? I've been around a bit, all right? And I don't think they think so. And I think it's going to give them all the pretext they need to go for the next level of destruction on them. Do I think that they'll actually wipe out the civilization like President Trump said? No, I don't. I don't think they're going to do that. But I do think you're going to look to see Keshem Island and Iraq bombed into the Stone Age, literally. And the Bandar Abbas area wiped out, and probably really working to reduce the mines in the area. We don't have that many minesweepers, but I'm sure we have a workaround for something. I don't know what that is, or it's going to be really strategic bombing again too. Or they really do that level of destruction. Not nuclear weapons, but they start destroying more and more infrastructure. And again, like I told you, preparation for a ground war. Okay? A couple of different axes of advances. Go watch my videos on this, right? There's the northern axis of advance that goes into the Khuzestan oil fields in the northern Persian Gulf, and then has a clear shot to Tehran through the mountains. Obviously, this would be an insurgent force being supported by a large conventional force with a special forces and insurgent force and a paramilitary forces to train an insurgency in Iran to attack the government forces while they're definitely weakened. And then also the other part of this is an amphibious landing down near Bandar Abbas. And they'll have to go to the weakest point to start getting ashore, getting through the minefields, figuring that out, or going around them, okay? Or a vertical envelopment with helicopter forces to land in the rear areas, okay? Some type of air assault that way. But I look to see these things happening, not to go to Tehran and topple the regime that way, but to gain a foothold to control the Straits and then to foment an insurgency and build an insurgency to overthrow the government. That's, I mean, if you want to guarantee controlling the Straits, that's one way to do it. But I think he's right about this. Let's listen a little bit more.
Be another attempt at a quote-unquote war-winning air and missile campaign to bring Iran to its knees. And that won't work. And after 4 or 5 days of intensive bombing and missiles and everything else, the Iranians aren't going to show up to surrender. The Iranians are going to continue to launch missiles. The real question is, do we get to the point where Donald Trump says, well, that's all I can do. I can't do any more. I'm declaring victory. Can he leave at that point?
Right.
Well, it depends on who you are. If you're Donald Trump, you may not be able to leave. People will say, wait a minute now, you're going to turn over everything in the Persian Gulf to all of these other people and turn the Strait over to the Iranians. You can't just do that.
Yeah, this is that taco charge, right? The Trump always chickens out charge. That's, I mean, that's what he doesn't want to have happen. Okay. And it's kind of crazy to me because you, at the point that you do want him to stop, then I feel like people who are his opponents make fun of him and say like, oh, you always chicken out. It's called making a decision. Okay. I'm not going to say taco. I don't say that's stupid. He made a decision. Okay. He's making a decision. Yeah, he's making a decision to change, to do things. I just think this is a hard nut to crack. And General Mattis, I'll quote General Mattis, chaos, 4-star general from the Marine Corps, Secretary of Defense under the first term for President Trump, who resigned from President Trump. Secretary Mattis, General Mattis said, they got to go all the way in and change this regime. There can't be any half measures. This is a bad regime. They're bad actors. They've been an enemy of the United States for so long. We need to go in there and destroy them and change the regime. Okay, that's what he said. Okay, so I'm saying that there are real strategic thinkers that know once you open up this can of worm, you got to finish it. Okay, so we shall see. We shall see. I hope it doesn't come to that. Again, I do think the insurgency campaign is the best economy of force operation to run, and the best way to control the Straits would be a limited offensive, a limited objective offensive where we have clearly defined objectives and we stop short of totally conquering the entire country. Okay, and I haven't looked at the defenses that much, but that's what I think. It has to be some type of limited campaign if we're going to do it. Let's listen a little bit more. Colonel McGregor here, and we'll keep going. And then
of course, we've already done that because before the war began, everything was fine. The oil was flowing. All the critical products that petroleum is part of were being manufactured, everything from plastics to microcircuitry, aluminum, sulfuric acid, whatever, you name it, fertilizer. So what else could happen? Well, you have China. Chinese have a interest in things. Now, one of the things we need to keep in mind is that the Iranians do have other ways to export oil. They have overland pipelines. They have access to the Caspian Sea. Between those two and the railroads and everything else, they can move oil to China. Now, I can't tell you how much, but I can tell you that they've done that. They have that system in place, and they will do it. So it's not a complete washout for Iran, as President Trump would like to believe. But will the Chinese become involved in some way? The troops that have been shipped over there, flown in, whatever you want to call it, they are largely light infantry. Now, they're good soldiers, good Marines. They're organized, trained, and equipped.
He's going to talk about the coming ground war right here, right now.
Equipped for missions that went away 30, 40 years ago, but we cling tenaciously to the past when it comes to the American military. So we still have an airborne division ready to drop on somebody somewhere and be utterly annihilated. There's a wonderful book that's called Thriving on Failure. And it's all about airborne forces, and it goes through all the existing airborne forces and how many there are and what there were to begin with. We're the ones who have this large division full of the light infantry. But in 1991, when Schwarzkopf, who was an infantry officer, was told, why don't we take the 82nd and let them jump into, say, An Nasiriyah, which was a giant airfield near the Euphrates River. He said, what are you, crazy? You know, how can we be sure that the air defenses there won't open up and kill everybody? He said, forget it. They're not going. So when the 82nd did ultimately get in, they rode on school buses. Kind of a humiliating experience for paratroopers.
All right. So he's more or less saying he thinks these are the options and they're not good options. Okay. So we'd have to bring in heavy conventional forces, as I've said before. And again, the way you get in there then is with special forces, heavy special forces war, supported by heavy conventional forces as a foothold. You got to control the Straits. It's a mess. This is a very big strategic mess. That's all I want to say. And put all your questions in the chat, guys, and we'll get into this. But let me see. Texas. Trump isn't making any decisions. He's a controlled puppet, blah, blah, blah. All right. Yeah, I mean, hey, you got your opinion on it. You know, you got your opinion on it. Right about now, you're right. Too bad Colonel McGregor's not SecDef. I mean, he doesn't pull any punches. That's why I want to show that to you guys, okay? He has a great take on it. You listen to him a lot? Okay, cool. Let freedom ring. Awesome. All right, guys, any other questions? We need accountability, Star says, and to hold diplomatic relations and sanctions. I agree. Drop a Moab. Little Diamond Duck says, I think they dropped a lot of Moabs. It just ain't happening, okay? Okay, guys? So, I mean, I'm just saying, could we do it? Yes, of course we could. Will we do it? I don't think so. Should we do it? Again, I don't think so. I think, again, my economy of force, operational design, operational idea, I think would be the way to go, okay? And you can look back at some of my old videos there, but I'll pull up the map really quickly just to show you guys how I think that should go down. Just so we can take a look at this. I believe I have a conflict tracker here. I'll just pull this up really fast. Let's look at Iran. All right, so here's what I would say, okay? I think, without zooming in too much, I think we'd have to look at gaining a foothold here in Iran, definitely dealing with Keshem and Larak Islands, okay? But to control the Straits, you have to control the Straits. I wouldn't bother this. Karg Island's a bunch of BS. Karg Island is deception. Building up an Iron Mountain in Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Iran, Iraq and Kuwait, coming across, seizing the Khuzestan oil fields here, okay? That cuts off their lifeblood. That cuts off like 80% of their oil, I believe, okay? And not other gas. They have a big pipeline. They have big gas oil fields here. I think like another 20% are offshore, but I believe 80% is onshore here. It could be more like 50%. I'm just spitballing here. But it's a major oil field. And it's surrounded by a tribe that can't stand the regime, okay? You set up shop here, Iron Mountain, heavy brigade combat teams here, U.S. Special Forces, Kurds, Iranian volunteers, if we can get them, push in, recruiting, resistance force, and then start continuing the bombing, continue to do economy of force operations, minimizing our risk. This will be very tricky. This is not easy. I don't want to make this sound like this is going to be easy. This will be a freaking nightmare, okay? I think the initial push into here will be easier to seize a foothold here. But the problem is this. The Straits will still be closed, okay? So we have to deal with this at some point. Maybe over time, we can get them to capitulate and stop, and we can bring in our partner forces, if we have any left, to deal with the mine-sweeping operations here, okay? That's Ben's plan in a nutshell. And let me see if we have any questions in the chat. Give me a 1 in the chat if you like that war plan or any war plan. Silver Moon, Iran, Iraq, war. The USA need to relook at the war. You have not even seen the chemical. Oh, man, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. So, yep. Silver Moon Rainbow, I didn't even think about that. You're right. That's why during the first Gulf War, everyone had mop gear. Yep, that's not fun. Mop gear is no fun. I remember getting my anthrax injections. Not fun. I know Juan Wick, you remember that too. But I think if they did chem bio on us, if they chem bioed us, I think there might be a pretext to use nukes. Okay, I'm just saying. Chem bio weapons on people, that's a weapon of mass destruction. I think we would escalate and use a tactical nuclear weapon on them. That's just, I think, what would happen. Okay? But you're right. If they fire first and they kill a lot of our people using weapons of mass destruction, It's a great point, Silver Moon. No one's talking about that. Great point. Yep, drone squad level. Silver Moon, you would have loved my first segment on Russia and Ukraine. I had all kinds of drone videos and things like that. You're right about that. Okay. All right, guys. You know what time it is right now? It is that time. It is time for the leadership lessons of South Park. Let's do it. We're going to get into this. Brian Plummer says, imagine if China ran a false flag mission, making it seem as if Israel attacked Arab nations without cause. It could. It could happen. All these things can happen. Lots of crazy fog and friction in war. That's why we need to try to avoid it if we can. Okay? Yeah, anthrax vax all the time. Great times there. All right, guys. Here we go. We're getting into the leadership lessons of South Park right now. Hold on tight. And our first one isn't even South Park. Let me find my South Park if I have it. Nope, first one is now South Park. This might be the first time we're not using South Park first. We're going right in with a little SNL. Here we go.
The Arabs, I love the Arabs. I don't want to go home. Let me stay. Get me to Allah's country. Everyone loves me here. They're not allowed to not, right? They have to love you. If not, bye-bye. Inshallah. Oh, I love that. I love that. Donald, please stay. Build a palace next to mine and stay. Oh, I can't. I have to get back home. Luckily, we have our own little slice of Saudi Arabia in America, a dry desert area filled with people who are way too into their religion. We call ours Utah, and I do very well there. So I can't stay here in the Middle East. In fact, you know what? I can't even stay in this sketch much longer. Gonna have to leave. You know what? Because it's the SNL finale, season 50, worst one yet. Okay, get up. Go ahead, get up, get out of there. Let me sit here. Yeah, go within. Go eat sun chips in the hallway. I'm here to break the fourth wall. Oh, it's nice here with all the young, pretty people. Hello.
All right. I have no idea what's going on there, but fun, good fun for sure. So what is the leadership lesson there? The leadership lesson there is you got to be careful who your friends are, okay? Because if you're hanging around with the crown prince killing his own people, then you're going to be looked down upon pretty hard, okay? So it's interesting because before administrations in the past, we were like, you know, MBS we weren't friendly about MBS. All kinds of problems because he, you know, allegedly had killed reporters, killed their people, and now all of a sudden we're big fans of MBS. So that's your leadership lesson for the day right there. Now, we've got another one for you guys here. Let's see, Borat. What does he have to say today?
In Kazakhstan, it is illegal for more than 5 women to be in the same place, except for in brothel or in grave.
Oh, my God.
In the USA, many women meet in groups called the feminists. I find them more. Dziękuję.
So what means this feminism?
It's the theory that women should be equal to men.
Do you think a woman should be educated?
Definitely.
But is it not a problem that a woman have a smaller brain than a man?
That is wrong.
But the government scientist, Dr. Yamak, have proved it is size of squirrel.
It's wrong. It's wrong.
Give me a smile, baby. Why angry face?
Well, what you're saying is very demeaning.
Listen, pussycat, smile a bit.
All right. Yeah, that's it. Okay. I'm done. We're finished. We have to leave.
In Kazakhstan, it is illegal for more than 5 women to be in...
He is crazy. This Sacha Baron Cohen is nuts. Oh, my God. Unbelievable. All right. Leadership lesson. You got to know your audience. You got to know your audience, know who you're talking to, know the culture of the people you're talking to, and don't be offensive, right? You don't want to be offensive. You don't want to turn everybody off. They're going to get up and walk out on you, and therefore you lose the people you're talking to. Next leadership lesson, right? Know your audience. Know how to talk to them. All right, let's see what we got here. Okay.
Pizza, great equalizer. Rich people love pizza, poor people love pizza, white people love pizza, black people love pizza. Do black people like pizza?
This is so wacko.
Pizza,
what in the world?
Great equalizer.
All right, guys, I don't even watch these ahead of time. I just tee them up and put them in here. And so, again, don't be a weirdo like Steve Carroll in The Office. That's the leadership lesson of this one. All right. And our last but not least We got a little Key and Peele to take us home.
Excuse me, sir. Do you have a moment to save the children?
I'm sorry, man. I'm running late, and I just don't have time to chat.
I understand that. I understand that. It's just that every minute another child dies unnecessarily, a child who could live a fruitful life with the help of just one small donation. It's just all it takes is $1 to save a child.
Fine. You're right. Yeah. Who doesn't want to help a child? Let's save 5 children.
Toby! One, 2, 3,
This is
4,
terrible.
5. Not so fast, just 5. Thanks a lot, sir.
Not so
Oh my God, I have
fast.
another dollar.
just five.
I have another dollar. Sir, I have another dollar.
Oh, if only that were so true. But yeah. All right. That's going to end it for tonight, guys. Great to be here with you. Hope you had a good time. And please remember, check out my pinned comment I've got. Tomorrow, I am going live for my Ferocious Optimist group coaching membership, okay? It's our monthly live group coaching session, okay? This is for my membership, for my coaching membership and community. We're going live tomorrow. You can click the link and you can check it out. But if you join tonight, you'll have access tomorrow for the live. And we're going to go for probably about 2 hours tomorrow. And it's a private Zoom call. We can see each other. We can talk. We can ask questions, all those things like that. I hope to see you there tomorrow. The link is in a pinned comment in the chat. Go ahead and take a look at that. Check it out at a minimum. It's great to have you guys here. It's been a fun time. I hope you guys had a great time tonight. And again, we're just kicking it off with some comedy at the end to have a great time and have an awesome weekend. All right, like I always say, make yourselves better, make the world better. Have an amazing, amazing weekend. Believe in yourselves. I believe in you, and go get yours. I'll see you all very soon.